across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. Yes, it's still me, your happy, snappy host, Kevin O'Sullivan, sitting in for Julia Hartley-Brewer. I'll be with you all the way to 1 o'clock. Stand by for 3 hours of breaking news, challenging views and topical debate. Get involved, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000. Or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Thursday, August the 21st. Here's what's coming up. The woman who has become the most poignant symbol of Britain's scandalous two-tier justice system gets released today after serving 10 months of a 31-month jail term to which she should never have been sentenced. Lucy Connelly banged up behind bars for writing a few hurty words on Twitter. The last time that duplicitous liar, two-tier Keir Starmer, was asked about Lucy, he pretended he knew nothing about her headline-hitting case. Yeah, right. Perhaps now our pathetic Prime Minister will admit he's heard of the mother who, prior to her intemperate social media post about the Southport riots, had never had so much as a speeding ticket. And maybe he will endeavour to ensure that such an affront to decent justice never happens again. But don't bet the farm on it. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the mess Starmer's gormless government is making of the escalating migrant crisis is now off the scale, as yet another of our uninvited visitors from abroad is found guilty of sexual assault. 3, in fact, and one more migrant charged with sex offences furiously squares up to the magistrate in court. Labour's asylum seeker hotel shambles is spiralling out of control. Councils, including town halls run by Labour, are queuing up to follow in the triumphant footsteps of Epping Forest to force the government to close local hotels that have been turned into barracks for foreigners who broke into Britain illegally. More than 30,000 migrants all across the country face eviction after the High Court ruled that Keir's calamitous crew have no right to surround hotels with security guards and steel barriers, black out the windows, fill them with law-breaking foreigners, and still call them hotels. Where will all these small boat chances go now? Coming soon to a property near you. So-called houses of multiple occupation are being covertly snapped up in neighbourhoods bracing themselves for a cultural invasion. In Portsmouth, right on the front line of this ongoing national disaster, councillors complain that an astonishing 55 homes have been secretly commandeered by the government, which will add up to around 500 more migrants in a seaside community they've nicknamed Asylum Seeker City. 0344 499 1000. In other news, after attacking a warden with boiling water in May, Southport monster Axel Rudakabana has had his full prison privileges restored. Isn't that special? A TV set with 25 channels, DVD player, more money to spend in the canteen and on phone calls, and access to the gym and library. I got a better idea. Take all that away from this revolting little fiend and lock him in solitary confinement forever. What do you reckon? 0344 499 1000. And finally, if you thought it was bad here, check out Germany. Thrill to the German neo-Nazi thug who was convicted of incitement to hatred, identified as a woman, and is now allowed to serve his sentence in a female jail. Any leader who lets their country indulge in this dangerous woke insanity should not be involved in peace talks crucial to the world's future. Instead of grandstanding at the White House, perhaps Chancellor Friedrich Merz should sort out his own rapidly declining nation. What a sick joke. 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Thursday morning together. And before we go over to my first guest, I should announce that the latest Home Office data on the asylum figures has just come through, released just half an hour ago, and it reveals that record numbers are claiming asylum. 110,000 people claimed asylum in the year up to June 2025, so just a couple of months ago. That is 14% more than the previous year and higher than the previous recorded peak of 103,000 in 2002. So, folks, it is getting worse and worse and worse. And now this pathetically hopeless government doesn't know what to do with all these people that it keeps letting into the country. I've got a good idea. Why don't you just not let them in the first place, you absolute fools? It's unbelievable, isn't it? Let me know what you think about this. 03444991000. But this is crisis point, folks. This is crisis point. You know, think about this. 110,000 people coming in the country. Oh, I'm persecuted, war, torture. No, you weren't. You're in France. There's no war and torture there. Oh, please come in. Here's a 4-star hotel. Oh, wait a minute. We can't give you a 4-star hotel anymore. We've had to close them all. Where are we going to put you? Oh, we don't really know. I mean, that, folks, is a crisis. This is absolutely spiralling out of control with a government that has no idea what to do. And Keir Starmer, with his coleslaw, is up in Scotland on holiday. Good, isn't it? He still has not actually mentioned once the hotel protests, the asylum seeker hotel protests that have been going on all over the country now for at least a month, every week, every weekend, loads of them. The Prime Minister has not mentioned them. What kind of a person is this? He likes to cover this sort of stuff up. As Mike Graham brilliantly said this morning, the only thing that he hasn't covered up in his entire premiership is that massive cold sore on his lower lip that he sported so brilliantly at the White House. Could have put some makeup on it or something. God almighty. This guy, this government. 03444991000. Well, let's go over to my first guest, who'll be with us till about 10:30. Happy to welcome to the show the excellent former Met Police Detective Peter Bleksley. Welcome, Peter.
Good morning.
Well, there's lots to talk about today, to say the least. Well, let's first of all talk about Lucy Connelly, who we understand may already have been released from Peterborough Jail, women's jail, where she's been for 10 months. She was sentenced to 31 months, which I think works out at 2 years and 7 months, for writing a few hurty words on Twitter. When the Prime Minister was asked about this a couple of months ago, this is a story, as you know, Peter, all over every front page for months, ever since she went to jail, all over the television, all over the radio. This is what the Prime Minister had to say when he was asked about Lucy Connelly a couple of months ago.
I'm not across the details of the particular case, but let me give you the principles that I would apply. Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time, and we protect it fiercely. I'm equally, though, against incitement to violence against other people. That has long been an offence in our country, and rightly so. And so I say, don't know the details of this case, but free speech, yes. Incitement to violence, no.
Two things there, Peter. I don't know the details of this particular case. Liar, absolute liar. If he didn't know the details of this case, he's no right to be the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister really ought to read the papers, watch the news bulletins, listen to the radio, etc. So if he really didn't know, then he's a disgrace to his position. However, he's lying. He did know about it. And secondly, don't talk to us about freedom of speech. A country that has freedom of speech will never send anyone to jail for hurty words they wrote on Twitter, right?
Well, what Lucy Connelly wrote on Twitter was very much in the heat of the moment, that appalling morning last year when we all discovered the extent and the brutality and the depravity of Axel Rudabakana's rampage, which of course killed 3 young girls and nearly killed another 8 and injured members of staff. We were all very, very emotive that morning, I'm sure. And Lucy Connelly wrote something which she later regretted and therefore deleted. Her words were abhorrent, let me make that perfectly clear, and she shouldn't have posted them. But the more serious crime was the hugely disproportionate sentence that she received, 31 months, for a mother who had lost a child through NHS negligence, a mother who had a husband with health issues and who really, really was punished way, way beyond what was appropriate. If she has been released this morning, then I hope she's in the arms of her family. I'm sure her daughter and her husband have missed her terribly. And at some point, whenever it suits Lucy, I will be very keen to hear what she has to say, because I'm sure she will inevitably speak to the media.
Yes, indeed. And let's go back to, I don't want to hear this Prime Minister. He loves to say this. We've had free speech in this country for a very long time and we're proud of it. A country that sends people to jail for hurty words, keyboard warrior nonsense that they write on Twitter and Facebook and social media does not have freedom of speech. Nobody is condoning what Lucy wrote in the heat of the moment. She's a mother. She's a mother who actually tragically had lost her own kid not so long before the Southport horror. She lost it terribly, but she got another kid as well. But she'd lost her own kid due to an NHS blunder, which is terrible. So she felt very deeply for those 3 mothers who've been deprived of their children by that little fiend up there in Southport. And what she wrote, is not to be approved of. But under the circumstances, I think a proper country would say, well, you shouldn't have done that, but don't do it again. Don't forget this woman, by the way. First of all, she thought better of it fairly swiftly and took her post down, realised she'd gone a bit over the top. She called for, mass deportation now, hotels to be set fire to, etc., etc. It wasn't her finest hour, she would admit that. But before this, Peter, this woman, a mum, happily married, a guy called Ray Connelly, who's a Tory councillor in Northamptonshire. This woman had never had so much as a parking ticket to her name. Sending her to jail was a disgrace to this country.
And so many people of colour gave evidence on her behalf, saying what a wonderful woman she was, how she didn't have an ounce of prejudice in her body. And yet she was still given a vastly disproportionate, punitive, pathetic sentence. I hope she comes out of here and is able to rebuild her life. I can only try and guess at the sense of loss that the forced separation from her family must have created. We did hear in the media that her daughter had begun to misbehave because she missed her mother so much, and I can understand that. I hope that she is surrounded by the warmth, the love of her family. I hope she can piece her life together bit by bit and find some joy, because that woman has certainly had a lot of hurt and misery, most of which most definitely should not have fallen upon her shoulders, and I wish her nothing but the very best for the future.
Yeah, I've interviewed Ray, her husband, a couple of times, and he's very traumatised by what's happened. And as you say, they've got a 12-year-old daughter, who hasn't taken it well. You can't blame her. But let's hope now that Lucy is back in the warm embrace of her family, that they can rebuild their lives. She didn't deserve this. It wasn't great what she did, but she did not deserve this atrocious sentence. We're going to talk about the asylum seeker crisis, the migrant crisis now. As I said, new Home Office figures released just about 45 minutes ago reveal that 110,000 people have claimed asylum in the year up until June 25, so a couple of months ago. So you can say it's probably about 120,000 now, at least. That's 14% more than last year and higher than the previous record peak of 103,000 in 2002. So what we're actually talking about is quite is a hell of a rise. And they'll still be claiming asylum now. So this crisis, on which the government, they also reveal this, spent in the last year £4.76 billion, is, as I said earlier, spiralling out of control. The government has lost its complete grip on this, hasn't it?
Oh, most definitely. And these are disgusting, appalling figures. But what people are forgetting, and I want to reinforce this, do we know what happened to the 35, 40,000, 45,000, 50,000 illegal migrants that came into this country in 2021 and 2022 and 2023 and 2024? Where are they? Where are they? I can hazard a pretty good guess. I'm sure that many of them have illegally woven their ways into communities, which is why we are seeing such disproportionate growth of these communities in our towns, in our cities, and why the very fabric, the nature and the look of Britain is changing. And it's part of the reason why people are so angry when these migrants get parachuted into their communities. There is not the time for integration. There is not the willingness for people, many of these people, to integrate. They are coming to join separate, isolated, non-integrated societies, and that cannot be good for Britain, and it can't be good for them. This whole migration, immigration issue has been disastrous for years, and with each and every boat, each and every illegal dinghy, the very essence of Britishness gets diluted just a little bit, and just a little bit the next day, and just a little bit the day after that, and so on and so forth. It is a national emergency. Something needs to be done by this spineless, lamentable and abysmal government.
Well said, Peter. I mean, and whilst I applaud the councils who are getting their local asylum seeker hotels closed down because they don't deserve hundreds of these undocumented, mostly young male foreigners in their midst, loitering around, committing crimes, causing a dangerous atmosphere. They don't deserve this. But the problem now is where will the government put them? And of course, we hear they're commandeering what they call houses of multiple occupation secretly. In Portsmouth, councillors found out this week that the government has secretly snapped up 55 houses of multiple occupation, which will add up to about 500 more migrants in Portsmouth, a city that is already swamped by asylum seekers. They're calling it Asylum Seeker City now, but this is a story going on all over the country. So what the government does with these people as they're evicted from hotels, God only knows, but that could be even worse, because it means that these migrants will be sort of filtered into the community, as I said in my monologue, coming soon to a street near you, coming soon maybe to the house next door to you. So it could get even worse. And why are people so upset about all of this? Why are they protesting outside hotels every weekend? By the way, protests that the Prime Minister and his cabinet have not yet mentioned once. Outrageous, pretending that this isn't going on. Well, it is. We're just watching now the migrants being secretly filed into the Britannia International Hotel in Canary Wharf. Until 3 weeks ago, a £425 a night businessman's and businesswoman's hotel in a very fashionable area of London. So there they go. But why are communities so upset? Well, first of all, what are all these hundreds of people doing amongst us that we know nothing about? But of course, it is the crimes that they are clearly committing. Hundreds and hundreds of them have been charged with serious offences, many of them sexual. Now, we've got a couple of cases here. A migrant who was actually working at a car wash in London Bridge, probably illegally, but he was cycling back after a shift to his asylum seeker hotel. His name is Qais Al-Aswad, 26-year-old. He committed 3 sexual assaults over a 3-week period along the same bike footpath in Hawley in Surrey. He's been found guilty of that. He awaits sentence. He grabbed these women. He in their intimate areas. It's shocking assaults. When he was in court speaking through an Arabic interpreter, he said, "I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't assaulted any women and I haven't kissed anyone. I left my country. I left my wife and kids in the camp and I seek safety in this country." Well, here's an idea. Don't sexually assault our women then. This is a disgrace, isn't it?
Yes, and it raises a number of issues. First and foremost, my thoughts are with the 3 victims of this despicable man's crimes. They have been traumatised. Let's not lose sight of that. We are increasingly putting the girls and the women of our nation at increasing danger. And whilst all police services, rightfully, are trying to tackle the dreadful issue of violence against women and girls, why on earth are we importing more offenders? It does not make sense. It is an absolute affront to every woman and girl in this nation. And the man you've just spoken about had the temerity to plead not guilty, got free legal representation, thereby costing this country thousands more pounds in his defence team. And it is just an absolute shambles. And by the way, what kind of man would leave a war-torn country, leaving his mum, his wife and his children behind? I can think of no greater act of cowardice.
I apologise to the audience, but I think I should tell you all what this guy did, because he doesn't think there's anything wrong with this. This is to do with different cultural values, different approaches to women. He comes from the Middle East. The first woman had left a pub and he slapped her bottom. The second woman, he grabbed her from behind and grabbed her around the waist and squeezed her bottom. And the third one, he grabbed her crotch and her vaginal area. He told the court he couldn't see anything wrong with any of that. Well, he's going to find out. He's going to get sentenced. I hope they give him a long sentence. Here's another one, Pete. I mean, bearing in mind, these are just 2 examples, but this is happening all over the shop. More and more of these sexual offences, either allegedly or definitely being committed by asylum seekers who come from cultures with different attitudes to women to us. This is a Nigerian migrant, another asylum seeker. He's in court accused, he hasn't been found guilty yet, of sexually assaulting 2 women while he was staying at the notorious asylum seeker hotel, the Thistle City Barbican Hotel, which has got the highest number of criminal charges and criminal offences of any hotel in all of Britain, something like 50 so far this year. It's ridiculous. Anyway, he allegedly groped 2 women on separate occasions in Islington, North London this year. And when he appeared in court, he stood up, started screaming about that he didn't like his lawyer. "I've never signed anything. I don't know who she is." The magistrate, Jerry Teague, told this guy, his name is Olusala Campson, he's 31, "Please stand up. We do not have enough information to deal with your case." Campson shouted, "Can I talk to my embassy, please? I don't know who she is, my lawyer." He then squared up to the magistrate by putting his head to the glass panel. As I say, he's not found guilty of these offences. He's just accused. But it just indicates these people, a lot of these guys, they don't view groping and grabbing women as any kind of offence, any kind of sexual offence. Therein lies your cultural difference, and therein lies our problem.
Yes, perhaps they believe women are objects that they can treat however they see fit. It's absolutely appalling. And once again, we are putting women in danger. And that hotel that he's in is in the centre of our capital city. Our capital city, our nation, potentially being blighted by sex offenders who we put up in a hotel there. It is utter nonsense. But there's another big issue that arises out of this case. There were conversations yesterday between the defence barrister and the magistrate about this defendant's mental health. So, as if we couldn't get it, not only are we importing sex offenders, who are arriving illegally at our shores, but people with mental health issues. When our National Health Service is already creaking at the seams, we bring in people with all these issues, and what's our government doing to stop it? Where are the boats being prevented from landing? They're not. They're coming in day after day after day, except when the wind blows. Well, it's enough to make me want the wind blow around this station 365 days a year.
Absolutely. Yeah, Lucy Connelly, we just heard, has now been released. So we think it was quite a few hours ago, but it has been confirmed she's been released. So that is good news, breaking news there. Now, I just should point out, just to give you an idea of this problem we have with all these undocumented men, young men of sexually active age about whom we know nothing, that for some reason governments have decided, well, let's let them all in, let's just let them wander around the streets. Not so long ago, an Afghani migrant who came across the channel in a small boat was pretty swiftly, within a couple of days, was billeted in a hotel in Falkirk in Scotland. He got into the hotel and within hours headed out into the town and sort of roughhoused some 15-year-old local girl behind a local pub where he viciously raped her. When his court case came up, he got 12 years, by the way, not nearly long enough in my view, but there you are, he got 12 years. And his defence was, well, no one told me about the cultural differences between my country and Britain. In other words, no one told me that you people in Britain take a dim view of rape. That cuts right to the heart of this problem. These guys have no idea about our correct attitude to women. They think women are objects and they can just attack them, rape them with impunity. That's just a story to illustrate exactly what we're talking about here, Peter. Let's quickly finish on our friend, our fiend, I should say, Southport killer Axel Rudakabana. Now, in May, he attacked a prison guard with boiling water. He has now had his full privileges behind bars restored. That involves a television with 25 channels. It involves extra money to spend in the canteen and on phone calls. And he's allowed out of his cell all the time. He can, he's got a DVD player, access to the gym and the library. Everything is fine. He's got a nice luxury existence. Why do we treat these people? This guy, the Manchester bomber, same guy, that Adibi guy, who some time ago, a few months back, attacked 3 prison officers with boiling water with special oil in it as well, so made up in his own kitchen. Why did he give them kitchens? Boiling water. He attacked 3 guards, really maimed them. They all had to go to hospital. One was a woman who has got damaged for life, is injured for life. He got his full privileges restored just a couple of weeks ago. Now Rudakabana's got his full privileges restored. Look, you know, these people, are we forgetting what punishment is supposed to be, Peter?
Are we forgetting what he did to those beautiful young children on that horrendous sunny morning? I think possibly some people in the prison system are. He's now been referred or restored back into the standard level of detention, which means his phone or the money he gets goes up from £5.50 a week to 20. If he was on basic, he'd get that £5 a week. He would be denied other privileges, and that's exactly where he should be and where he should remain. This is an insult to those beautiful children's memory. It is an insult to the public of Britain, and it quite simply should not happen.
Exactly right, Peter. Peter, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Peter Blexley there, former Met Police detective. Let me know what you think about what we just... I mean, both of us, I think, you know, I think all decent people right today are in a kind of a rage. Well, you know me, I'm always in a rage, but I mean, other people are in a rage as well. And quite rightly, we've got a government, the migrant crisis. I can't emphasise this enough. This government has completely lost a grip on it. It is out of control, spiralling out of control. More and more, thousands still coming across the channel. Asylum seeker hotels now being closed down. Government doesn't really know what to where to put them. They're secretly commandeering houses probably near you to put 10 at a time in. So you're going to get, if you get 50 houses, you've got 500 migrants. Incredibly, today, the government's put out an appeal saying, have you got a house we can use? They're looking for 5,000 houses. Have you got one we can use? This is pathetic and dangerous and really, really worrying. This country is in trouble, and this government, I mean, you know, we keep saying they're not very good. I mean, this, I don't know. I mean, I think this is frightening. Let me know what you think. A government that has lost control, that is incompetent, doesn't know what to do. 03444991000. Let me know what you think. Next up, we'll take a couple of calls, so maybe more. So let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Stay tuned.
This is a kind of retribution through the back door, rather like devolution was, to try and break Britain up into regions, or break England up into regions, if you like, and effectively promote the Scottish flag, promote the Welsh flag, and denigrate the St George's Cross, which is why I'm so keen that we do start to fly the St George's Cross. I'm going to buy a flagpole and start flying one from the end of my drive. I think it's time.
Good man.
Inflation's been creeping up now for a few months, and what's driving this, Mike, is it's pretty much food inflation. It's continued to go up, so that's it, 4.9%, and this is not the direction that we want things to be going. And what we've seen, Mike, they were talking last week, Rachel Reeves, about the economy and comparing ourselves to some of the other nations. So let's do that with the inflation figures. France, 0.9%, Germany, 1.8%. So two of the big powerhouses of Europe, they're below that Bank of England target. So
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm going to take a couple of calls now. Let's talk to Mark in South Wales. Hello, Mark. What would you like to say? You think, I've got a note here saying that you think Lucy Connelly had the right advice to plead guilty. Why on earth would you think that?
Because the offence she was charged with is practically impossible to be found not guilty for. There's basically two bits to it, and the prosecution only have to prove one part. The first bit is, did the person intend to stir up racial hatred? Well, she could probably have shown that she didn't intend to.
Yeah.
It's the second part she was stuffed on, which says, having regard to all the circumstances, is racial hatred likely to be stirred up? Now, we all know there's plenty
Well, it's not, is it? Yeah, a good barrister could get her off that.
Well,
Mark, let me explain something to you. 385 people went to jail after the last summer's riots. 12 of them for nasty, hurty words that were put on Twitter and Facebook onto social media. Those 12, none of them should have gone to jail. And
No,
any advice to them to plead guilty was wrong. And I'll tell you why they got that advice. It's because they had legal aid lawyers. Legal aid lawyers always advise people to plead guilty so you get a lenient sentence. And so many of those 385 did that and did not get lenient sentences. They were conned. Lucy Connelly was conned, and she could have got off that sentence with a decent barrister. She could have done, Mark. Every day of the week with a decent barrister, she could have got off.
Not a chance.
Rubbish, absolute rubbish. Who are you? Are you some kind of lawyer?
Saying, Kev.
Are you a lawyer? Are you a barrister?
No, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a normal.
Well, don't assume you know what you're talking about then. You're talking absolute crap, Mark. She could have got off. She got the wrong advice.
Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're not letting me finish, otherwise you.
Well, I heard what you said earlier. I'm still angry about it.
Well, I'm angry about it. The main problem here is our pathetic quango that puts down the sentencing guidelines that thinks that 3 years.
So don't plead guilty then.
Words on the internet.
Don't plead guilty.
But if
honestly, Mark, you're going along with what this government conned everyone into doing, pleading guilty, so they got a lenient sentence, but guess what? They didn't get a lenient sentence. Let me tell you, Mark, I know about the legal system. A decent barrister would have got Lucy off every day of the week. You need to read up a bit about this, Mark, before assuming you know what you're talking about, because you clearly don't. No offence, but thank you for a good call. Mark in South Wales. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Julia Atherley. She's the Home Affairs correspondent of The Sun. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I got the Home Affairs correspondent of The Sun, Julia Atherley, in the studio. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining me. Let's talk about this ongoing shambles, the horror of which is coming into sharp focus today after the government released the new asylum seeker data and statistics. But first of all, your paper today, good front page, no vacancies. Now, more and more councils are queuing up to tread in the footsteps, the triumphant footsteps of Epping Forest District Council, which of course won this kind of historic victory over the government, saying, look, you cannot take a hotel in our local area, and this is what all councils will say, suddenly surround it with steel barriers, put security guards all over it, bring down, black out all the windows, fill it with illegal foreigners, and then still call it a hotel. So all councils all over the country have seen this, including quite a few Labour councils, and they say, well, we'll have some of that. So the government's going to be assailed with these legal challenges, which, if the High Court's got anything to go by, will have to succeed. No vacancies in migrant hotels. What will they do with the asylum seekers when they get evicted?
Well, exactly. So, yeah, as you say, there are dozens of councils across the country, including Tamworth and Wirral, which are two Labour councils, also Bournemouth, which has a Lib Dem leader. So it's not just Conservative councils, as you say, so dozens across the country, which are looking at what happened in Epping and saying, can we do that? Is that something that we can do? Will that work for us with our planning laws in our area? And so far, the ministers from the Home Office, we heard from Dan Jarvis yesterday, they've not been able to give us an actual answer about what's going to happen if these hotels close. Where are the people that are currently living in them going to go? Are they going to go into HMOs? Are they going to go into larger sites such as disused army accommodation? We've just not been able to find out yet.
Yeah, so HMOs, houses of multiple occupation. We happened to hear from a councillor in Portsmouth a couple of days ago, and he said that the council there, or the councillors, have just found out that over the past few months, secretly, the government has commandeered 55 HMOs. Now, if you think about it, that'll probably be another 500 migrants for the beleaguered city of Portsmouth. So they're doing this a lot, but I would imagine that they're going to struggle to find enough houses to put, 32,000 asylum seekers who are currently in hotels into. And incredibly, they've issued an urgent appeal today. This is the government, folks, for 5,000 homes to house 20,000 migrants. I mean, how are they doing this? Are they saying, have you got a spare house? Have you got a house we can borrow? How are they going about this strange appeal?
Yeah, I mean, it does seem bizarre. I think it shows how, so the Epping ruling is that that hotel in Epping, the Bell Hotel, has to be empty by September the 12th. Yeah. So they're urgently trying to find accommodation, and part of that is they're approaching private landlords, they're approaching different people around the country. I mean, as you say, it seems pretty desperate. They're desperately trying to find places where they can put people. And we had Chris Philp in our paper today talking about how these are homes that could be used for British families. We know there's a shortage of housing around the country, so I think some people are getting angry about the fact that these hotels, people that are staying in hotels, could be going into accommodation around the country. Absolutely. That British families could use.
It's an absolute shambles, and Kemi Badenoch has today written to all Tory councils encouraging them to follow in the footsteps of Epping Forest District Council and to sue the government to challenge their local asylum seeker hotels. And you can understand why local communities have been protesting. I mean, it's not in essence that, we don't like the idea we've got 500 foreigners in our midst who we know nothing about. I mean, people are uncomfortable about that, but it's what they've subsequently done. We've got hundreds and hundreds of them have been charged with serious offences. Some of them now are being convicted. Rape, sexual assault, and that's why this is becoming so incendiary. It's not just that these foreigners are being foisted on unsuspecting communities, it's what they then get up to.
I think it's fair to say that most people in these hotels are law-abiding. But as you say, there have been cases recently. There was the case of the man in Epping who's accused of trying to kiss a 14-year-old girl, which is horrific. So there have been those high-profile cases that have been...
There's been another one in Epping as well.
Yeah.
Another sexual assault charge.
Yeah, exactly. And those are going through the court system at the moment. I think what the Epping case has really highlighted is that these hotels have been set up and they've circumvented the planning system. So if they were to go through the planning system in the local council, there would be debate. There would be able to lodge an objection to it. But because of the way they've been set up and the contracts that have happened, that's not been able to take place. So I think that's why local people they just haven't had a voice in what's happened.
Exactly right. And what's happened is their local hotel essentially has been turned into barracks for undocumented foreigners, and the government broke planning rules by doing that, because they still insist they're still hotels. Well, they're not hotels if I can't book into it, if I can't go in to have a drink there, and so on and so forth, which I can't. You know, these hotels suddenly become booked out forever. You can't get in. There's security guards. They close all the restaurants, all the swimming pools, all that sort of thing. So the government's in big trouble there. It'll be interesting what happens in the next month or so. Finally, is this your story? The SOS scam, abusive new tactic, legal channel migrants are using to get French to escort them into British waters. That's the Sun's good story. What would explain that?
Yeah, it's a story in our paper today. It's about how we've exposed that people coming across in these small boats, migrants coming across, are essentially making mayday calls when they're in French waters. French crews, French boats are arriving to find out actually the boat's not in trouble, but because they're there, they then have to escort them and carry on. So yeah, it's quite fast forward.
And still they come, still they keep coming. Well, listen, Julia, I better let you get back to your desk. It's a few footfalls below here, but a busy day for you, a busy day for everyone on The Sun. Great paper today, and thanks very much for coming in. Julia Atherley there, Home Affairs correspondent of The Sun. Next up, we're going to be talking about a particular asylum seeker who's doing very, very nicely, thank you. He's set up an extremely successful business in his asylum seeker hotel room and is making a fortune. We'll talk about that next, so stay tuned.
The government needs to...
They should all be processed immediately and be deported. And those 138 odd in the Epping Hotel, for example, they've got until September the 12th, so they've got 3 weeks. Process them rapidly, reject them all because they've come here illegally, and deport them. And if there's a crossover, then yes, people need to be housed in former military camps. What's wrong with some good UN-type tents? And let's deport them. Germany's deporting people to the likes of Afghanistan. We should be doing the same.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Earlier in the show, Peter Blacksley and I discussed a migrant who has been found guilty of 3 sexual assaults. It was on his cycle ride home from work. He was working for a car wash near here in London Bridge, near Talk Towers, and which begged the question, well, he's an asylum seeker, so that's probably almost certainly illegal work. But that's the least of his crimes, obviously. He now faces, one would assume, a hefty prison sentence for sexually assaulting 3 different women, found guilty of that. Now, let's talk about so many of these asylum seekers, these migrants, living at our expense, in free for them, but expensive to taxpayers, in asylum seeker hotels. You know, they're not supposed to be working, but many of them do. Now, we're going to talk about the millionaire migrant. That may be slightly an exaggeration, I don't know, but this guy is staying at the notorious Thistle Barbican Hotel. That's in South Islington. It's been some Thistle City Barbican Hotel. That's where there's been a record number of alleged crimes committed by asylum seekers, and there's been some quite angry demonstrations, protests from the local communities outside. But not all of the migrants in that hotel are getting up to no good. At least one of them is very hard working and making himself a fortune. He's from, we don't know his name, but he's from Sudan, and he has been running a lucrative graphic design business using his computers in his hotel. He specializes in Silicon Valley style pitch decks on Mac laptops. He was living in Dubai. He's come over from Dubai. He's left apparently his wife in Dubai, and he was asked if his claim for asylum was legitimate, and he said, "Of course not." Let's talk to public policy specialist Lucy White. Hello, Lucy.
Hi, Kevin. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Good to see you. I mean, this is typical, isn't it? This guy's room, there's pictures, Daily Mail story, there's pictures of it all over the paper. There's obviously he's got a MacBook laptop, an iMac computer, Selfridges bags, and a £580 Louis Vuitton wallet. Apparently he's been making a fortune running a graphic design business on his computers. He was clearly very well-to-do when he was living in Dubai. His wife works for an Emirati investment firm, and he's come over here for reasons best known to himself. When he was asked whether or not his asylum claim was legitimate, he said, "Of course not." But he's doing very, very nicely, making a fortune. Not supposed to be working at all. Something wrong about this, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. I mean, we know that these fake asylum seekers are obviously not asylum seekers. They are illegal economic migrants, and they should be treated as such. What I've sort of, I think is important to think about is that the Immigration and Asylum Act of 1999, it says that the UK has a legal obligation to provide accommodation. It could be any form of accommodation, not necessarily hotels, that we should provide that to asylum seekers. But the point is, these are not asylum seekers, so we should stop housing them immediately. An asylum seeker, such as this Sudanese man, is receiving approximately £49 a week for a living allowance, which is, just shy of £200 a month. So what I think we should do is every single illegal economic migrant, they should be made to pay back every single penny that the taxpayers have paid to host them. And if this Sudanese illegal migrant is genuinely making thousands from this illegal business, he should be made to pay everything back. And of course, what he's doing is illegal. And what is astounding is that he is a Sudanese illegal migrant who was living in Dubai and has now come to the UK. He claims to be gay, which is obviously false, as we've heard.
It's come as shock news to his wife.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is, in Africa, there are around 54 countries. Half of those, it is illegal to be gay, but the other half, it is not illegal to be gay. So even if we pretend that, he actually was gay, the African Union should be doing more to provide refugee accommodation across Africa. This should be an Africa issue. So, if you go back to 1950, when the European Convention on Human Rights was established, the Council of Europe actually said, this is to protect the human rights of member states of the Council of Europe, not the entire world. Yeah. So this pretends that, the ECHR, we have to take in migrants from all across the world is absolute rubbish. It was made for Europeans.
Oh, sure. I mean, and what these treaties were not about is protecting people who are making thousands and thousands of pounds every week, it seems. This guy's making thousands of pounds a week. on his graphic design business. And don't forget, so here he is, he's officially an asylum seeker, so we're paying for his hotel. We're paying for he gets free food, free accommodation, doesn't pay tax. He gets a certain amount of benefits. I mean, asylum seekers essentially get 50 quid a week. Benefits. God knows why, but they do. This guy will get less than that because if they're in a hotel, they extract some of the or they subtract some of the money. But he's getting free accommodation, a certain amount of benefits, free food, free everything else, and of course isn't paying taxes because people don't know that he's working. But in fact, you know, he's earning thousands of pounds a week. And I suspect he's not the only one. I mean, there's pictures in the Mail, we've just been showing a few of them, of his room in the Thistle Barbican Hotel, which, by the way, is a notorious hotel for asylum seekers. It's got the highest crime rate of any asylum seeker hotel. 50 or so this year, I think, have been charged with serious crimes. But anyway, so he's staying there, not paying tax and making a fortune. His room is just adorned with designer label stuff. He's got thousands of pounds worth of Apple equipment. He's got a large printer. He's got Liberty stuff. He's got an espresso coffee machine, and so on and so forth. I mean, we're being taken for a ride by so many of these people, aren't we?
Yeah, precisely. Whether it's them working as Deliveroo drivers and Uber Eats drivers or running a lucrative graphic design business, the issue is, as we keep saying, these are illegal economic migrants. They should be deported instantly. And we have so much evidence of this. Why is the Home Office not intervening? The Home Office should essentially arrest them. They should deport them. And people wonder why there are so many protests outside these hotels. Well, hello, you know, we're not going to continue to use our taxpayers' money to fund these criminals, essentially.
Exactly right. I think the police should visit our Sudanese friend as a matter of some urgency. Lucy, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Lucy White there, public policy specialist. Next up, Rakib Ahsan, Dr. Rakib Ahsan, social policy analyst, will join us to discuss all of the big stories of the day. We need to talk about Lucy Connelly, of course, Starmer's hypocrisy, pretending he knows nothing of the case, also the ongoing migrant crisis, shambles, and the asylum seeker hotel mess. We need to talk about that. Lots still to talk about. Rakib Ahsan next. Stay tuned, folks.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You know what? I'm so lousy at arguing. You know that guy, was it Mark, who called from South Wales saying that Lucy Connelly got great advice, pleading guilty to an offence she shouldn't have pleaded guilty to. I was right, he was wrong, by the way. She should have pleaded not guilty. What I should have done, because thanks to Becky had sent me a text, quite rightly, she said, well, you should have cited Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, who was filmed, who was on film calling for for right-wingers' throats to be cut, calling for people to be murdered. He pleaded not guilty and he got off. So, I was right, Mark was wrong, and Becky, you should have conducted that argument, not me, because I forgot all about Ricky Jones. Really good point, Becky. Thank you very much for putting me straight. Let's move on to my next guest. Really pleased to welcome to the show, as always, social policy analyst, Dr. Rakib Ahsan. Hi, Rakib.
Morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. Well, let's talk about, for a second, shall we, Lucy Connelly. We've just seen pictures, photographs, footage of her leaving Peterborough jail, where she spent the last 10 months. She got 2 years and 7 months, so she got a lot of time off for good behaviour. I'll give her that, or I'll give the authorities that. But they never, most women, if they're not in jail for, mass murder or something like that, as long as their offences are within the right parameters, most women get allowed out to see their children, every other weekend, once a month, that kind of thing. She was never allowed out, and I've spoken to her family. I've spoken to Ray, her husband. I've interviewed him a couple of times. She was specifically not allowed out because she was Lucy Connelly. She was the test case. The government wanted to make a point about
example.
They wanted to make an example, a point about her, yes. But look, Rakib, the Prime Minister is very keen. He pretends he doesn't know about this case. That's a lie. But he's very keen to say, we've had free speech in this country for a very long time, and we're very proud of it. I say this. Any country that sends its citizens to jail for what they write on social media, hurty words on social media, does not have proper freedom of speech. Over in America, they looked at this. I was saying earlier, of the 385 people that were imprisoned after the summer riots, 12 of them were imprisoned for writing nasty things on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media. I say that those 12, if you must, punish them in some way, I wouldn't, but if you must, do so. But we should not be sending people to jail for things they write on social media. Keir Starmer is a joke for suggesting we have freedom of speech, since he enshrines that kind of approach.
Well, I think that the idea that we have a rich tradition of freedom of expression, that's absolutely right. I think the question is to what extent is the current government protecting those freedoms? And for me, I think that its record is very poor. We remember the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, clashing with the US Vice President J.D. Vance in the Oval Office over this very issue. And I found it quite embarrassing, really, that we had the US State Department publish this report on human rights in the UK, specifically pinpointing how we've declined in terms of protecting freedom of speech. It also talked about how people who social conservatives who oppose abortion, if they were, for example, silently praying outside abortion clinics, how they've been convicted over that. So I think that the idea that freedom of expression is well and truly alive and it's being robustly protected by the public authorities, I think that idea is for the birds.
Yeah, I mean, Keir Starmer is eroding our freedom of speech. Everybody knows it. This Labour government is the enemy of freedom of speech. It's, over in America, they're shocked by what they're seeing over here. I'm shocked by what I'm seeing here. Keir Starmer doesn't know the first thing about freedom of speech. What he does know about, although he pretends it doesn't exist in this country, is two-tier justice, the scandal of two-tier justice. He didn't get his nickname Two-Tier Keir for nothing. He pretends this doesn't exist. Now, Lucy Connelly is the epicentre of the scandal of two-tier justice. She gets 2 years, 7 months for a few hurty words on Twitter. Nobody's condoning what she wrote. It was, you know, arguably racist, arguably incendiary. It wasn't nice, but 2 years and 7 months. She shouldn't have gone to jail at all, but 2 years, 7 months. Ricky Jones, last week, Labour councillor, caught on film, calling for people to be murdered, slit their throats, cut their throats, right-wingers. These right-wing scum cut their throats. Caught on camera, shouting to an angry crowd in a pretty explosive situation. He gets acquitted by a jury. Rakib, in a nutshell, is two-tier justice in all its lack of glory, isn't it?
No, and I find it remarkable that we've had mainstream media publications and the national public broadcaster in the shape of the BBC essentially caricature perfectly legitimate concerns surrounding two-tier governance as some kind of far-right conspiracy theory. I think that we've seen time and again, whether it's two-tier policing, two-tier justice. I think there's even some two-tier governance in terms of which flags and the heritage of particular countries are celebrated by local authorities. I think that we see it all around us, that there was one thing that I think that many people want. Now, we can talk about sentences, whether they were too stiff, whether they're too severe, whether they're too soft and lenient. But I think that what most British people want from a variety of backgrounds, they want equality before the law. I think that's the key here. They don't want to see particular groups being the beneficiaries of preferential treatment. And I think that's a real problem, that at the heart of our justice system should be equality before the law, but that is eroded over time. And I think that it'd be very difficult to restore that, especially under this government, because I think that this government refuses to acknowledge the very existence of two-tier governance in modern Britain.
Yeah, I remember Keir Starmer was asked about this soon after Southport, soon after the riots, as people were being sent to jail for extraordinary sentences, disproportionately, grotesquely long sentences for minor offences. And he was asked about two-tier justice, and he sort of almost angrily, literally at the point he was, it doesn't exist, and stormed off. And to this day, he's never addressed the issue of two-tier justice, and quite clearly we have it. And for the record, folks, I don't believe Ricky Jones. I think he should have been found guilty of what he was charged with, I suppose, but I certainly don't think he should go to jail. Frankly, I'm a bit of an absolutist when it comes to freedom of speech. I don't applaud what he said, but I don't think we should go around clapping people in irons for what they say in the heat of the moment. That is an assault on freedom of speech. So the problem with Ricky Jones and Lucy Connelly was the extraordinary disparity in the way
lack of consistency
in the way they were treated. And what that comes down to, Rakib, is Lucy Connelly, who was perceived of as right-wing. I don't think she's particularly right-wing. I think she was an angry mum. She lost her own kid not so long before, so she was empathising with the poor mums in Southport who lost their children. She went over the top. So I don't think she's particularly right-wing, but she was perceived to be right-wing. Therefore, she got the book thrown at her. Ricky Jones, a self-confessed left-wing member of the Labour Party, in the left of the Labour Party, he gets acquitted, found not guilty by a jury who quite clearly sympathised with his politics. So in this country, what worries me, Rakib, is we seem to have come to a point where it's kind of illegal to be right-wing, but very legal to be left-wing. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that what we're talking about here, there's a lack of consistency in terms of how law and order works. in modern Britain. I think that it goes back to my initial point that equality before the law is fast becoming a myth. In modern Britain, I think that some people see that certain groups are beneficiaries of preferential treatment because it might depend on their ethnic background, racial identity, religious affiliation, and indeed political persuasion. And I think that seriously undermines public confidence in our public institutions, especially the court system.
Indeed. Let's move on to the migrant crisis. New figures out today reveal that 110,000 people who have crossed the channel illegally have claimed asylum in the year up until June 2025, so a couple of months ago. That's 14% more than last year and the highest on record. The previous high was a peak of 103,000 in 2002. So this situation is getting worse and worse and worse. Now we have an increasing problem that, well, I mean, here's to all these local councils who are challenging their local asylum seeker hotels. After Epping Forest District Council won that historic victory in the High Court a couple of days ago, and their asylum seeker hotel, the Bell, will have to close now. Loads of councils, including Labour councillors, queuing up to launch the same kind of legal action. These hotels look as if en masse they're going to have to be closed. 32,000 asylum seekers will have to be evicted. The question is, where do they go? Houses of multiple occupation, perhaps. Maybe they'll convert some camps or something like that. But the real headline here, Rakib, is this is chaos. This is an absolute shambles. The government has completely lost grip on a crisis that is spiralling out of control.
No, absolutely, and I think it very much shows that smashing the gangs is not quite going according to plan.
Forgot about that.
and I think that if you look at the fresh data that came out today, I think for the year ending June 2025, the number of detected irregular arrivals, that's the terminology, is actually increased by 27% from the previous year. 88% of that irregular migration is in the form of small boat
Actually,
arrivals.
Rakib, I'm going to have to stop you here. Can you stop using Labour language, please? Could you call it what it is? Illegal. It's not irregular, it's illegal.
It's very, and I tell you what, the vast majority are not asylum seekers fleeing immediate risk of violence and persecution. There's ultimately economic migrants, illegal economic migrants. What's really interesting, if you look at that data from January to June 2025, Kevin, 65% of small boat arrivals are males aged 18 to 39 years of age. And you look at the top 5 nationalities, the top ranking nationality is Eritrean. You also have Afghan, Sudanese, some Somali also in that list as well. So I think what you're seeing it, and I think that was part of the. I thought that High Court ruling, it was a victory for the mothers of Epping. Of
course it was.
To be honest, so very concerned by the impact of the ongoing small boats emergency on the safety of women and girls. And I think if you actually see some of the hotels, they're not that far away from schools, Kevin, where a significant proportion of the pupil population are teenage girls. So you have to question whether the government are even making robust child safeguarding assessments when it comes to rehoming illegal migrants in the UK. Now, with the ruling, I think it's very clear that you're going to see local authorities across the country make similar challenges. This is very much a landmark ruling. But I think the risk here is now that the government might look to rehome the migrants into private housing. So in some ways,
that's a fact.
That's already happening. So local communities, it'll be even closer to them. This problem. And I think that what it really shows is that we need long-lasting and practical solutions to the problem. And I think that means looking at our human rights framework, looking at our relationship with international conventions. What's very clear is that there's growing public concern that the asylum system is just not fit for purpose.
Absolutely, and we have a government that has no idea what to do, and we've still got thousands and thousands and thousands of these people, mostly young men, as you say. The fashionable way to describe describe them is young men of military age. I've got another way to describe them: young men of sexually active age, and therein lies a big problem. Anyway, there are thousands of them still coming across the channel, and frankly, now we have a government that doesn't really know what to do with them. So it really is
this is a big problem.
It's a crisis. Problem. It's a crisis, and it's very, very worrying. And if you look at the government's defence, I don't know if you read the government's defence as it was fighting Epping Forest District Council in the High Court 2 days ago, was very revealing. It wasn't a legal argument at all. It was pathetic, actually. It was a guy called Edward Brown. He's KC. He was the barrister for the Home Office. I'm not blaming him. He was doing his job. But I thought their case was rubbish. It was this. Well, you know, if you don't let us put asylum seekers in hotels, that will interfere with the government's duty to the human rights of these migrants who arrive on our shores. So they made it clear that this government prioritises the human rights of these people who keep breaking into our country illegally over British citizens. I think it really is a window into Keir Starmer's rancid soul.
I think it also shows a problem with our human rights framework. I think that all too often, and I think it also shows a problem in some cases in terms of how our laws are interpreted. And I think all too often when you look at all this, ultimately the rights of foreign nationals, including those who are guilty of crimes, they're prioritised over the collective security of law-abiding British citizens. Now, that shouldn't be at the heart of our human rights architecture. British collective security should be at the heart of it. And I think when we're talking about admittedly sensitive issues surrounding the safety of women and girls, that needs to be prioritised over any rights of any foreign national, if truth be told. And I think that, Kevin, I think that you can talk about camps and all the rest of it. I think for me, I think there's a growing public appetite for asylum seekers. If they fail there, firstly, you want a tighter asylum system. Our acceptance rates are so high compared to other European countries. You want a tighter and radically selective asylum system. And if people fail their asylum claims, they have to be returned to their country of origin. Yeah, it's quite, and that process needs to be even speedier if they're actually guilty of committing crimes on British soil.
Well, we have a ludicrous situation now where if your asylum seeker application fails, you appeal, and then if it fails again, you appeal. And you can appeal ad infinitum. You just keep appealing. So failing your application to stay doesn't really mean much. You just appeal. So that has to be stopped as well. So many things. We need to reform our asylum system
100%.
Root and branch right away. It is a disaster. As I say, make no mistake, it was revealed in the High Court 2 days ago that this government, this Labour government, considers its duty to the human rights of asylum seekers more important than its duty to the rights of British citizens to feel safe in their own country. And that's a disgrace, an utter disgrace. Just before you go, Raki, because I know this is your kind of specialist area, I've got a note here saying that the state has failed white working class pupils, white working class kids. And I think this is a massive problem. You know, when you have ethoses like critical race theory.
White privilege.
Yeah, white privilege, which essentially say, well, if you're white, you're at the top of the tree, you know, and if you're not white, you're not at the top of the tree. Well, you know, that comes as news to thousands and hundreds of thousands of white kids living on sink estates, attending crap schools and not being given a break in life. We've got a problem here because I don't think people quite realise that white working class kids get a very bad break in this country.
No, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, when it comes to places like Blackpool, Great Yarmouth and the Isle of Wight, there's not much white privilege to be had there in many of the schools in those areas. And I think that I think it's good that we're talking about it, but we need to see some serious changes here within our education system. I think that far too long there's been a general focus on boosting ethnic minority educational outcomes. And that has taken place, especially when it comes to South Asian minorities, but also you look at there's high levels of academic achievement within Chinese minorities living in the UK as well. Now, some of this is culture, but I think it's very clear that we also have had, over time, we've had this culture of ultimately portraying the white male as the sort of epitome of advantage, which has completely ignored class and regional inequality in all this. And I think that there's a lot of white working class lads in this country that they just haven't been given the attention that they deserve within their education system. And okay, if some of them haven't been academically inclined, but they have practical hands-on skills, they have that vocational expertise, that's not been recognised within our education system. And I think that when it comes to sort of apprenticeships, I think they should act as springboards into further education. I think we need a university system that recognises those kind of skills, and we need to get away with the obsession with academic expertise in general.
Absolutely, Rakib. I mean, you know, white people being the epitome of privilege and success, I mean, that's absolute garbage. I mean, look at me. Seriously, Rakib, really good to talk to you as always. Rakib is the excellent Dr. Rakib Ahsan, social policy analyst there. We're going to take some of your calls when we come back. So 0344 499 1000. I think you know what we're talking about. Get on the blower, give us a call. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. That next, stay tuned.
And deport them. And if there's a crossover, then yes, people need to be housed in former military camps. What's wrong with some good UN-type tents? And let's deport them. Germany's deporting people to the likes of Afghanistan. We should be doing the same.
This is a kind of retribution.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go to the phone straight away. Let's talk to the legendary Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Good morning to you. I'm absolutely delighted that Lucy has got out of jail. Not that that girl should have been in for a day. Not
absolutely,
a day.
Absolutely. It's a disgrace. It's a scandal. It's a scandal.
You know, there's an old saying, act in haste, repent at leisure. But I know how I felt when those three little girls were slaughtered in Southport. And honestly, I think every mother in the country would have been found guilty that day for the feelings that we felt against the person that had murdered and slaughtered those children. But, you know, do and say things in the heat of the moment, and especially when you are in an emotional state. Plus the fact that Lucy had a tragic loss of her own child prior to the Southport slaughters of these three little
She lost her
girls.
temper, Georgina. She'd lost her own child, you're right. She empathised, sympathised with the three mothers who so horrifically had lost their own children in Southport, and she lost her temper. And what she posted, she swiftly regretted, took it down, but still got 2 years and 7 months. As I keep saying, how does that compare to Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, who called for people's throats to be cut, who was acquitted? By the way, I don't think he should have gone to jail either, but nor should Lucy. There's no consistency in our justice system. We have a scandalous two-tier justice system that goes hard on people who are perceived to be from the right and very easy on people who are perceived to be from the left. It's all wrong, Georgina.
Well, this is what you get when you have a politicised judicial system.
Yep.
They say, Kevin, that the law should be blind. And in Great Britain at the moment, because of this two-tier judicial government that we've got, we now have a two-tier judicial system. If this is the case, then Ricky Jones should have been incarcerated exactly the same as Lucy Connelly.
Well, probably, I would suggest, Georgina, if you are going to carry it forward logically, he should have gone to jail for a lot longer than Lucy Connelly. He was filmed calling for people to be murdered, slit their throats, these right-wing scum and all that, he said. So if she gets 2 years, 7 months for a few hurty words on Twitter, he should get about 10 years. However, he was found not guilty by a jury for political reasons because the jury sympathised with his left-wing views. Unbelievable.
Well, Ricky Jones, that was a definite incitement of violence. I agree with every word you're saying, Kevin, but I'm also going to say Keir Starmer, within a year, has turned himself into public enemy number one with his two-tier justice system and much more. And let me tell you, the people of Britain have had enough. We are on the turn. So he needs to get his act together and sort this mess out.
Yeah, well, he certainly does, Georgina, but whether or not he's even got the ability or the inclination to get to grips with this unravelling nation. We are unravelling as a nation right now under this incompetent government. Whether or not Keir Starmer can ever get to grips with it, I think is a very moot point. I wouldn't bet the farm on him being able to sort out anything. Georgina, always a pleasure to talk to you. Great call as always. Georgina in London. Let's go to Jason in Wiltshire. Hello, Jason.
Morning, Kev. Thanks for taking the call.
Pleasure.
It's regarding our migrant hotels for our illegals. It should have been sorted out years ago. I even thought of a name for it. It's for our left-wing human rights loving friends. It's called Adopt a Dinghy.
Adopt a Dinghy.
So what you get is, I don't know if you've seen the adverts on the telly, like you can have a donkey for £4 a month and you get photos and you get this. But what they get, for £2,000 a month, they actually get somebody in their box bedroom out the back, and they can look after them, fund them, give them mobile phones. They won't need pictures or anything of them because they should be seeing them in the flesh.
I think that asylum seekers should be allowed to adopt a dinghy.
Asylum seekers.
No, they should be allowed to adopt a dinghy, and then we can put them in the dinghies and send them back to France where they came from. How about that?
Yeah, it'd be brilliant, but it don't work like that, does it?
No, nothing works in this country. I don't know if you've noticed, Jason.
You had your judge or whatever it is, he was talking about the human rights of whatever it was of some immigrant earlier. I just heard you mention him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got a couple of rooms in his house somewhere. Big Ange, I reckon, has got a couple of rooms in that nice place where she is in London.
Yeah, she's got 3 homes.
So I mean, she could pack them in, but I'm just at the stage now. I'm sick and fed up. We're funding illegals. And we've got our own ex-service personnel which are struggling on the street. You've got
but definitely homeless veterans we should help as a matter of urgency. And all of these houses, these multiple houses of multiple occupation that the government is snapping up right now, commandeering all over the country. Not only could they be given to homeless veterans, but also loads and loads of young people, loads of people who need homes in this country. I'm talking about British citizens, but they are at the bottom of the queue because these houses of multiple occupation have to go to migrants and asylum seekers, as usual. In two-tier Keir's, two-tier Britain, British citizens come second, foreigners come first. Magnificent, isn't it? Jason, thanks for calling. Good call. Jason in Wiltshire there. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a councillor in the Wirral up there near Liverpool, Max Booth. He's going to tell us how their council will be one of the many councils who are going to challenge the government to get their asylum seeker hotel closed down. This is going to be going on all over the country. This is going to be the story of this month, the rest of this month. You wait. So Max Booth from Wirral next. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, let's talk about the many councils around the country that are planning to follow in the triumphant footsteps of Epping Forest District Council to the north of London, where, of course, we've seen a lot of angry protests well, I say angry, but peaceful protests by the local community saying we don't want hundreds of asylum seekers, foreigners, mainly young men, about whom we know nothing in our midst, particularly as two of them have been charged with serious sexual assault. That tends to enrage local communities. You can't blame them, can you? It's not a story unique to Epping. It's happening all over the country. So lots and lots of local authorities, lots of councils are taking inspiration from Epping's triumph victory in the High Court a couple of days ago, and they're going to follow suit. One council that is considering it is a Labour-run council. I should say that quite a few of the councillors who are going to copy Epping and go to court to have their asylum seeker hotels are Labour councils. So this goes beyond politics and beyond sort of slavish following of your Labour government. So trouble from all sides for Starmer and his incompetent crew. We're going to talk now to a councillor in Wirral who's a Conservative councillor, but I do believe that they're a Labour administration. So welcome to the show to Max Booth. Hello, Max.
Hi Kev, how are you?
I'm good. Am I right? So you're a Tory councillor, but the administration up there is Labour. And are they planning to follow Epping by going to court to try and get your asylum seeker hotel closed down?
So yes, we've got no overall control in our council, but it's led by Labour. Yeah, Labour have the council leadership.
Right.
And the hotel in question is in my ward. So the ward I represent is where this hotel in question is in the Wirral, the former Holiday Inn Express. So we have a inclination from our legal team and our leader of the council, who is Labour, in all fairness to her, be looking to follow in Epping's fashion and challenge this at the highest possible powers.
So, Max, you see you had a Holiday Inn there. About how many migrants are living there?
So it's quite a fluid situation. So we believe there is still some families in the hotel, because it's been a family hotel since about 2021 for women and children and families. And then
asylum seekers, though, yeah?
Asylum seekers, yes, asylum seekers. So we don't know the numbers, which is part of the problem, is that the government foisted this on us 3 weeks ago, and we didn't have any idea on the numbers. We didn't know the time frames. We didn't know where the families would be moved to. It was so sudden without any consultation, and bearing in mind it was actually part of the Home Office minister, and she's in Wallasey constituency, which is the neighbouring constituency to Wirral West, where this is all taking place.
So hang on a sec, mate. You said 3 weeks ago. How long have you had how long has the Holiday Inn been an asylum seeker hotel?
5 years. So it was the back of COVID.
So what happened 3 weeks ago? Sorry, I'm not quite following you.
So the government put forward an intention to change it from families to single males.
Ah, I see.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So this was without any consultation. This is in a conservation area. We've got the Royal Liverpool Golf Club 5 minutes down the road, which holds the Open every few years. It's just so unsuitable. As you know, I represent a Victorian Edwardian seaside town. This is not a city. This is not an urban centre. This is not an industrial heartland. It's a seaside town with grammar schools, golf courses, beautiful high streets, and the families, in all fairness to them, weren't causing us any problems. They were integrating in the local primary schools, in the local church groups and things, and now the government have came in 3 weeks ago and said, nope, we want to change how we're doing all of this.
So at the moment, the Holiday Inn, as it was, has for 5 years now been full of women and children, families of asylum seekers, yeah?
It was men originally for the first year, so May 2020 through till 2021 it was men, but that was during lockdown, and it was on the back end COVID. Right. They then changed it to families, which, as I said, of course, there's no major problems.
Right.
And we are now at the position of no families, no men. We want it back to be a hotel for the people in the Wirral and Hoylake.
Just generally, Max, have you heard through the grapevine perhaps whether or not in your area the government's trying to commandeer what they call houses of multiple occupation, HMOs, maybe other accommodation for migrants, because they put out an appeal today for 5,000 houses. They are desperately, I know that they are commandeering these kind of properties all over the country. Any of that going on in your area?
Yeah, Kev, I think it would be fair to say Rumourville is in overdrive, especially from yesterday. I haven't heard anything concrete, but the Wirral, as most places, is very diverse. We go from, very rural areas, towns and villages, to very urban centres, which would accommodate those HMO facilities. We had the government talking about former student accommodation, these old tower blocks, and then we find out this morning that the numbers in hotels has gone up 8%. So there's lots of mixed messaging. We're not getting anything clear from central government, which is why we are grateful to this current council administration for so far standing in lockstep with us as ward councillors and the people we represent and pay their taxes, that they're willing to challenge this. And that was elevated after the news yesterday in Epping.
Yeah. So the Wirral could well be off to court to get a ruling, presumably to close the whole place down, because this looks as if, Max, it's going to happen all over the country. There are dozens of councils saying we're going to do this, and I think there's two reasons that I think people like yourself and local communities are upset. They're upset because they never get told anything. This is always done in a secret way. Even the commandeering of HMOs, houses of multiple occupation, is being done very, very secretly. I spoke to a Portsmouth councillor a couple of days ago. He said, we've just found out, they never told us, that they've actually requisitioned 55 houses around Portsmouth. They've already got several hotels there full of asylum seekers. 55 houses will constitute about 500 more migrants. So it's the secrecy with which the government goes about these things that I think is causing problems. And also the other problem, perhaps because you've got women and children in your local hotel, but around the country, one of the problems is a lot of these asylum seekers, or hundreds of them, are being, and more of them are being charged with serious criminal offences, some of them sexual. This kind of information is likely to enrage, worry and infuriate local communities, isn't it?
100%. I mean, we were clear from the outset when we first found out about this proposed change of use 3 weeks ago that we don't serve Serco, we don't serve the government, we don't serve the council, and the Conservative Party is a very poor second place in this. We serve the people of Hoylake and Mells and the Wirral wider, hence why we've been challenging this in various meetings with the head of the legal team. We've met with the leader of the council. We're pushing for this because the lack of transparency has been part of the problem. And as I said earlier, the Labour minister in charge of asylum and that field is in the neighbouring constituency. Wallace, Angela Regal, she's in the neighbouring constituency. And it's been so underhanded that there was no consultation. We are in a conservation area. You know, they're trying to change it from a hotel to a hostel. So you've got planning grounds for it to be challenged. And of course, the news yesterday in Epping hopefully helps us assemble a case to take it even further and just return the hotel for our people.
Yeah, so in this respect then, Max, you've got a Labour-run administration, but the Tories, Labour, I presume most of the councillors are at one on this issue. This is sort of goes beyond politics, doesn't it? This goes on. This is about the safety of the local community. It's about government transparency. So, am I right in assuming that the Tories and Labour all feel the same about this?
Yeah, I think so far it has transcended those political boundaries, which is what we wanted. It was never political point scoring. Yeah. It was simply for the benefits and the well-being of the people of Wirral, and hotels are key pillars in any local economy. The only party that's been resistant is the Green Party, which you probably won't be surprised to hear. And they've been at the protests with the Antifa Brigade and things. So, but so far, credit to the Labour leader of the council. She is working with us, and hopefully we can keep moving that forward, transcend those political boundaries for the common good of the people we represent.
Well, Max, I wish you all the best, you and the Labour administration, and I hope you do sue the government, and I hope you win. Thank you very much for your time. Good to talk to you. Conservative councillor in the Wirral up there in Liverpool, Max Booth there. Let's quickly take a call before we go to break. After the break, by the way, there's the Edinburgh TV Festival at the moment, and a guy called James Harding, who used to be the editor of BBC News, he now edits The Observer. Have you seen The Observer lately? It's like a student's comic. Must have a circulation of about 6. You know, you can count the readers on the fingers of one hand, I should imagine. Anyway, he is going to tell the TV festival in Edinburgh, I used to go to that myself, that it's not true that the BBC is institutionally anti-Semitic. I wouldn't necessarily, I would kind of agree it may not be institutionally anti-Semitic, but let's face it, it's got a massive anti-Semitism problem. So if he's trying to deny that, you know, to hell with him. We'll talk about that after the break. But first, let's talk to Mike in Tiverton. Tiverton is it Somerset or Devon, Mike?
Devon.
Devon, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've been there. I know that place. Anyway, what would you like to say? Migrant hotels?
Two quick things. Yeah, migrant hotels and boats. Simply, I think, you know, talking about women being in danger, I think a lot of people forgot a lot of women work in these hotels, so I'm quite worried for their safety.
That's a good point, Mike. That's a good point. Yeah.
And the other thing on the boats, everybody keeps talking, and politicians mainly and commentators, about stopping the boats. I don't think we need to stop them.
Yeah.
What we need to do is stop enticing people to come here.
Exactly right, mate. Exactly right. It's not about the mode of transport. It's about the incentives, the lack of deterrence. We offer these people the horn of plenty when they get here. You know, 50 quid a week, free accommodation in 4-star hotels, free food, free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors. No wonder they come. We've got to stop all of that.
Yeah, well, they shouldn't be. All they should be given when they land is a tent, and they should be taken to an area which is secured by the army, for example, and they're given food, and they've got a tent for accommodation. They've got all the human right needs that they've got, the basic needs, and if they want to come and live in a field, that's fine. I think also we should be setting up a processing centre in the Falkland Islands, which is British territory, and then we'll see if people stop.
What about the poor people of the Falklands? How will they like that?
Well, there isn't many there.
But you can't just sort of ride roughshod over there, right?
No,
so,
but
over their concerns.
It's a deterrent.
I know. But a lot of people say the Falklands as if the people on the Falklands don't matter. They do matter. No. I don't think they've been through a lot. Those people. They've been invaded before, so I don't think we should facilitate another invasion of the Falklands. But I take your point. We could find somewhere else to put them. I like your campsite idea, your tent idea.
But the other benefit of using the Falklands is, of course, the Argentines.
No, we're not going to lead. We're not going to use the Falklands, mate. No. It's not fair to the Falkland Islanders.
But guess what? The Argentines won't want it back anymore, will they?
They'll always want the Malvinas. They'll always want them back.
Well, we get rid of two problems at the same time.
Well, we're not going to give it. We're not going to give the Argentinians the Falklands. You're right though about the tents. You know, I mean, people go, "Oh, that'd be inhumane" and all this kind of stuff. Well, you know, in France, when they get to Calais, the north coast of France, they're lucky if they get a tent. You know, the French chuck a few tents at them. They don't all get them. So in France, a section of them, a few of them get tents. The rest of them get the square root of sod all. They don't get any money, no food, nothing. Why are we such a bunch of suckers here on this side of the channel? It's ridiculous, Mike. But good points, mate. Thank you for ringing. Mike in Tiverton there. When we come back, we're going to be talking, as I say, about the former editor of BBC News who says that the BBC, the state broadcaster, is not institutionally anti-Semitic. An extraordinary claim, really. We'll talk about that next.
If there was a so-called peace agreement, and he kept territory, which I think is an abomination when you think that he invaded.
Agreed.
If he did that, he'll come back for more. I mean, Hitler did that. He does that. All the dictators of history never give up because they believe they're right, and they will do whatever it takes. They don't care about human life. There's 1 million people that have been killed or injured as a result of his invasion on the Russian side alone, and something like 300,000 to 400,000 killed or wounded on the Ukrainian side, because he decided to go to war with them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, a guy called James Harding is a man of great achievements, and I mean that seriously. He's a former editor of The Times, and he was also the editor of the BBC News and Current Affairs Department. He co-founded an organisation called Tortoise Media that specialises in slow journalism. It's a specialised... James... Journalism's supposed to be fast. Just a tip. Not that I should presume to tell you how to do your job. Anyway, he's now editor of The Observer, which again, to my mind, shows that this guy, in terms of his editing, is going downhill fast. You've seen The Observer lately. Looks like a student parish pump or something. Absolutely ridiculous paper. Must have a circulation of 6 if it's lucky. Anyway, he's up in Edinburgh now for the TV festival. That's where all the great and the good... There's the front, if you're watching. This is the front page of The Observer there, and there's a picture of a Palestine Action supporter. And so it's a terrorist. Zoe Rogers is 21 and has been in prison for a year awaiting trial for her part in a Palestine Action raid. Well, you know, we should wait for the verdict, but they say a terrorist. Well, seems like there's a pretty good case for saying, yes, she is. That was the worst front page I've ever seen, and The Observer's done some bad ones, I'll tell you. Anyway, let's talk about the Edinburgh TV Festival. I used to go there myself. It's when the great and the good of the TV industry all descend and drink a lot and pretend they're doing something useful. Anyway, he's going to make the keynote lecture there. And James Harding will tell the assembled grandees that the BBC is not institutionally anti-Semitic. Whatever your view of hate speech, he's going to say, versus freedom of speech, an overbearing government minister doesn't help anyone. He's talking about Lisa Nandy there. Let's talk to a Jewish journalist. It is relevant to say that. Jewish journalist and broadcaster Jonathan Sakadotti. Welcome, Jonathan. Now, James Harding, a man of great achievements, let's be fair, until he edited The Observer, is going to say the BBC is not institutionally anti-Semitic. I mean, to a certain extent, I would go along with that. I don't think it's institutionally anti-Semitic, but to say that is to throw a veil over the serious problem our state broadcaster has in its newsroom. I would say its newsroom is anti-Semitic. Its coverage of the Gaza conflict has been disgracefully pro-Palestine and disgracefulully anti-Israel. I think there is an anti-Semitism problem at the BBC. Do you agree?
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, anyone with a brain and a pair of eyes would agree. And just to go back to James Harding, you mentioned there, editor of The Observer now. You showed that front page with that woman, Zoe Rogers, on the front page, this sort of beautiful cover shot of her as if she's some sort of innocent. But she was charged with criminal damage and violent disorder for an incident at Elbit Systems UK, which actually supplies the British Army with advanced night vision goggles and sophisticated mini UAS. So it's obviously a very important and completely legal company that she is alleged and charged to have been attacking in some incident. So I think the idea that his newspaper is somehow running cover for her with this rather romantic, soft-focused picture of her on the front and this story about how shocking it is that this 21-year-old is being charged for these terror-related incidents just gives you a bit of an idea of where he sits on this issue. And
yeah,
I would say...
Just to say, the question is a terrorist, question mark, as you say, this angelic-looking young lady, how, you know, if she's found guilty of those offences, a terrorist, yes, she damn well is.
Well, that will be, you know, for the courts to decide. But I suppose the idea is that supporting Palestine Action, if that's what she's done, when it's a prescribed terror organisation, or indeed attacking a legitimate and legal company working in the UK that also provides items which are essential for the British military, might be classified that way. And onto the BBC, yeah. I'll say this, of course it's not surprising that he's standing up for the BBC. As you said, he has a history working there. I don't know the man personally, but I would say that honestly, it's quite preposterous to think that a broadcasting organisation like the BBC, that we all have to pay for through the licence fee, that, you know, has a long, long history of errors, mistakes, lies, lies, calumnies, whatever you want to call them, about Israel, but also about Jews, should in some way be considered just to be absolutely fine on this. I mean, in November 2017, Lord Grade, who was the former BBC chairman himself, said in the House of Lords that the BBC had a problem with Israel. He's now, I think, in charge of Ofcom. He's gone a bit quieter since then, but he's been outspoken many times about that. In December 2021, he said that the BBC should provide proof over their ridiculous allegations that Jewish children on a bus that had been attacked by Muslims while they were celebrating the festival of Hanukkah had uttered anti-Muslim slurs, as the BBC had insisted. He said they should provide evidence. Of course, they couldn't. In the end, Ofcom found against them because they had apparently made up this interpretation of the audio. I mean, the list of things they do goes on and on and on. February 2025, they aired that Gaza documentary with the son of a Hamas minister in Gaza and pretended that nobody on the production knew, and it turned out after their own investigation they did. It also included mistranslations of the word Yahud from Arabic into Jew into Israelis to try and hide the genocidal intent of those Palestinians they were interviewing. Back in 2025, still in June, they had that awful Glastonbury moment with that yob on the stage, chanting, Pascal Robinson Foster is his real name, chanting death to the IDF. They broadcast it live. They didn't pull it. They saw it happening. That's now become a regular taunt to Jews in the UK. Back in 2015, I remember when Tim Wilcox, this is well before October the 7th, was interviewing the daughter of Holocaust survivors in France after the horrific killings in the hyper-caché kosher supermarket in Paris. And he interrupted her talking about her experiences of anti-Semitism to say Palestinians suffer hugely at Jewish hands as well.
Oh, my God.
He later had to apologise for that. The BBC, of course, said, no, nothing was wrong. He just phrased it badly.
The problem here, Jonathan, you and I have discussed this before, is that the BBC cannot conceive of itself being in any way wrong about anything, actually. But the worst kind of biased journalist is a journalist who doesn't realise they're biased. I don't pretend I'm not biased or I'm not impartial, I'm not biased. Everybody knows where I stand on issues. The BBC pretends it is piously impartial and unbiased on all issues, especially the Middle East, and that is a barefaced lie. It cannot see its own problem, and that is the problem. There is the disaster, and James Harding is just going to propagate that, isn't he?
I think that's right. And I think, again, the BBC can't see it even when Jews point it out to them, which I would say might hint at some sort of institutional anti-Jewish feelings. Because if you always dismiss the insight of the very minority who in volume tell you that you are getting this wrong, just simply as them being somehow, I don't know, manipulative over your coverage of something because they don't like your position, that in itself is inherently potentially anti-Semitic. And I don't like to throw around the idea that it's anti-Semitic to criticise or critique or analyse the actions of the State of Israel. Absolutely. Per se, of course it isn't. But when you have an absolute obsession, as the BBC seems to, of getting things wrong and then having to apologise for them. So let's face it, when they're forced to apologise, it's clear that they
their policy when it comes to Jewish issues is apologise and be damned. Jonathan, good to talk to you. Isabel Oakeshott next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of mid-morning. It's my final day. You'll be thrilled to learn. I don't know who's doing the show tomorrow, but I'm off on holiday, a thoroughly well-deserved holiday, 2 weeks away. But it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure presenting this show. I guess Julia will be back next Monday, so it's Tuesday, I've just been told, so she'll be back on Tuesday. So we'll let you know who's hosting the show tomorrow later on. And coming up in this, my final 60 sizzling minutes, in a little while we'll be talking about government waste. Government apparently spends almost £4 million a year on private cars. We covered a story the other day. The Foreign Office has mislaid £1 million worth of laptops, phones, and it has also wasted a load of money as part of that £1 million on tickets, travel tickets that were booked, journeys never taken. So they pay for the tickets and the journeys aren't taken. £1 million in a year. Anyway, the government is wasting £4 million a year. So they go on about, I'm going to save money, you know. It's a disgrace, the amount of money they're spaffing. We'll talk about that in a little while. Take your calls in half an hour. Lots to talk about. 03444991000. And finally, the moment of madness in Germany. Trans madness. A guy, a Nazi thug, neo-Nazi thug, who's been sentenced to jail for hatred, spreading hatred, you know the scene. I mean, he's a really bad type. And he said, oh, well, I identify as a woman. So he's now going to spend his sentence in a women's jail. As I said earlier, Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor, just only last week or earlier this week, last week, trying to sort out world peace in Washington. Get back to your own country and sort it out. Don't let this nonsense happen. Honestly, Germany used to be a great country, going down the pan like so many European countries, including Britain. Right, we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But first, for the next 20 minutes or so, get ready. Tin hat time. Let's talk to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Hi, Isabel. Good to see you.
Hi, Kev. I'm actually feeling in a really bullish mood today because I think there's such a great British fight back, isn't there? Somebody sent me this morning a picture of a street in London where a bunch of British flags have reappeared. And my source had just been passing by late last night, and he said that there were more than 100 locals who were erecting or hoisting these flags.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, you sent us this picture. Look at that. That's a Canary Wharf, I believe, near the Britannia International Hotel, which has just been turned into asylum seeker barracks. But those are St George's flags there. Mike Graham was saying, Isabel, earlier that he had a call from someone saying they tried to buy a flag. And the flag seller said you can't get one for love nor money. That apparently 50,000 of them have been sold in the last couple of days. So you're right. This is a patriotic fight back. We are reclaiming our flags, the Union Jack and the St George's flag, and we are reclaiming our country. Maybe to hell with these socialist, this Labour government who prioritise migrants over us. So yeah, good for the people. Fly the flag with pride, right?
Exactly that. And the council had, just to remind people, the council had actually taken down those flags not 24 hours earlier. So
of course they have.
This is so heartening, isn't it? I just feel people are, this is their very kind of respectable, legitimate way of rising up. You know, it's not British to take to the streets in a loud and angry way unless it's really, really a sort of very urgent situation. People have been doing that outside migrant hotels, and for the time being it's proven effective. But meanwhile, what a British thing just to fight back with flags, fight back with painting roundabouts. Some call it vandalism. I'd call it an enhancement.
You know, there's a joke going around if you've got potholes in your road in your local area that the council haven't repaired for years. Get out there with a pot of paint, put a St George's cross on the pothole. They'll cover that up within seconds. What a
great idea! I'd love to see those potholes, you know, treated like that, and maybe it's a rapid repair situation.
And what do these councils think they're doing? You know, arriving within seconds. Get those flags down. The Tower Hamlets the boss of Tower Hamlets Council is a convicted felon, saying, you know, because they've got loads of Union Jacks and St George's flags have been erected, put on lampposts there. He said, like, angrily, he said, we're going to get these down as soon as we can. It's our national flag. It's not some sort of disgusting, horrific spectacle. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
It's not a swastika, people, is it?
Yeah.
You know, it's actually a symbol of our pride, and you know, the official government position on the display of the Union flag and other British flags is to encourage it, and quite right too. So I'm feeling really pretty pleased about this, and also on the migrant hotels, which just put the government is in such a bind over this, because yes, they're going to be frantically trying to work out how they can reverse the interim judgment that has come down. But how does that make them look? It puts them on the wrong side of their own policy, which is to end the use of asylum hotels, and it puts them on the wrong side of public opinion. That is a very, very uncomfortable place for any government to be.
I don't know if you looked into the real disgrace, I thought, if you looked into the government's case in the High Court 2 days ago. It was mounted by a barrister called Edward Brown, KC. I'm not blaming him. He was doing his job, representing his client, the government. But his argument was this. You can't make us close down these hotels, these asylum seeker hotels, because that would, this is his exact words, it would interfere, significantly interfere with the government's duty to the human rights of migrants.
I mean, I was also, like you, triggered by the word duty. This government's first duty is to the British people. It is to the citizens of this nation. And I think we can all be very, very clear about that. It doesn't mean that we don't have any external responsibilities, but the sooner this government recognises that its first and most overriding duty is to the people of this country, and that the people of this country are being manifestly disadvantaged by the prioritisation of the human rights of foreign nationals, the sooner this government's popularity ratings will perhaps inch off the floor somewhere a little further up, but nonetheless probably still absolutely in the basement.
Yeah, Edward Brown KC made it clear that the government's priority, it saw its first duty as to the human rights of asylum seekers. In other words, British citizens come second to the human rights of these foreigners who break into our country illegally. As I said earlier, that is a window into the rancid soul of our human rights obsessed Prime Minister Keir Starmer, don't you think?
It completely is. If you like, they've shown their true colours. We're showing ours, which are those of the Union flag or the St George's flag or any other national flag of Great Britain. They've shown their colours, which are some kind of, you know, pan-global colours of, I don't know, the UN or the you know, the EU or whatever it may be. But this is just, I think this is the beginning of a fight back that could get a lot bigger. It doesn't have to get uglier, but it could get a whole lot more awkward for the government. Yeah. There are an awful lot of very motivated people out there. They're not going to do any harm to anyone. They just want to push back in any legal way that they can. And they're prepared to create, let's call it, a little bit of mischief.
Exactly right. And, you know, peaceful protests, all these protests have, by and large, been pretty peaceful. Yes, they've been passionate, they've got heated at times, but in terms of protests, they've been peaceful. And that was the other disgraceful element of the government's case in the High Court the other day. If you make us close these asylum seeker hotels, it will only give way to more violent protests. What violent protests? You know what this is about, Isabel? This is because Keir Starmer almost wants them to get violent so he can start dismissing the concerns of decent local people and calling them far-right thugs. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, we see him, we see them, we know what their agenda is, but in the end, they are not going to emerge victorious from a battle on this scale. They've got a massive problem now, and just distributing asylum seekers around communities, in other forms of social housing is not going to work. They're going to have to be a lot more creative than that. People don't want these asylum seekers in small groups in homes all over towns and villages. I mean, the hotels are horrendous because they are so ridiculously unnecessarily luxurious, but they do have the advantage that at least the community knows that's where the base is. Yeah, 111,000 asylum seekers have applied to stay in this country, come across illegally in the past year up until June. And that's a record, 14% more than last year and higher than the previous record of 103,000. So this goes on. But this government, Isabel, is going to have to face facts here. It's going to have to come up with a way of stopping these people getting into the country. They cannot go on like this. It's an absolute shambles. Listen, let's quickly move on. Remember this? This is Keir Starmer lying about Lucy Connelly.
I'm not across the details of the particular case, but let me give you the principles that I would apply. Firstly, I'm strongly in favour of free speech. We've had free speech in this country for a very, very long time, and we protect it fiercely. I'm equally, though, against incitement to violence against other people. That has long been an offence in our country, and rightly so. And so I say, don't know the details of this case, but free speech, yes. Incitement to violence, no.
A case, the Lucy Connelly case, all across every front page for months, all over the television, all over the radio. If he's telling the truth and he doesn't know about that case, he's got no right to be Prime Minister. But of course he's not telling the truth. He's lying. This guy's always lying. Lucy Connelly got out this morning after serving 10 months of her 2-year, 7-month sentence for writing hurty words on Twitter. Nobody condones her post. It wasn't very nice. She lost her temper because she'd lost her own child, and she was empathising with 3 mothers who'd lost their children in horrific circumstances up in Southport. She should never have got 2 years and 7 months. He goes, I'm very proud of our human rights, of freedom of speech. We're very proud of it. Any country that sends people to jail for what they write on social media does not have proper freedom of speech. He needs to get his act together if he really wants to boast about freedom of speech in this country, because his party and him are killing it stone dead in Britain.
I could not believe it when Keir Starmer said, I'm not across the detail.
Liar, yeah.
How the hell could you not be across the detail of this case? It has been one of the most significant legal and court cases of, I would say, the last 10 years, actually, because it's unique. And for him not to be across the detail is downright negligent. So it's either downright negligent, and as you say, means he's unfit to be in the job he's in, or he was lying. I'm afraid neither of those interpretations is flattering, is it?
Yeah.
This has been an absolutely seminal case. It is good news, I suppose. Well, of course, good news that she's out, but she should never have been in there in the first place. But what worries me is that our Prime Minister, who was not across the details of this case,
says he wasn't,
may not be across the detail of other potential such cases. You and I have talked about Bacon Man, the guy that was arrested after...
The guy shouted, we love bacon.
We love bacon. It's banter, isn't it? It's provocative. It's a bit of a tease. We love bacon. He said this on the site of a protest at the site of a proposed...
Tell you what, Isabel, if you just hold on, we've got footage of it, so let's have a quick look.
We love bacon! Why? Because I like bacon. They're saying he likes bacon. Oh.
Look, the thing is, that guy, it's not the nicest thing to shout at Muslims, of course, who don't eat pork or bacon. It's not the nicest thing. But if, as Keir Starmer said, very proud of our freedom of speech, we got to have the freedom to say that. I mean, what that is offensive. You know, it's offensive to Muslims. Well, as we often discuss, Isabel, it's not against the law to offend people in this country. What on earth do the police think they were doing there?
I mean, how feeble have we become as a nation if you can't say something like that? It's hardly the most horrendous insult to hurl. And even if it was, you know, up and down the country, 1 million people a day say insulting things to each other in a variety of settings. There's no place for the law here. We do have to be a bit careful. You know, I'm mindful that there have been other cases where social media footage has done the rounds that appear to show one thing. I'm thinking of the Manchester Airport 2, the pair there. Yeah. You know, you see one video and actually another tells another story. So maybe there's something broader to this. All I can say is that we have spoken to the relevant police force. They didn't choose to give us any further context to it. And they are sticking by the line that this was some kind of racial insult. Race and religion are two very different things. And, you know, there's nothing racist about talking about bacon.
Yeah, if that guy is getting arrested, I mean, as I understand, he hasn't been charged with anything yet, but if he's getting arrested for taunting Muslims, you know, about their the fact they don't eat pork by shouting we love bacon, that's ridiculous. He shouldn't be arrested. I mean, the police have got this big problem. They seem to have become like kind of paramilitary social workers these days, always going round thinking that they have the right to warn people about being offensive, like that poor shopkeeper in Wrexham who put up a sign saying that due to scumbag shoplifters, he'd had to lock all of his produce in closed cabinets. Please let me know if you want to have a look at anything. I'll unlock them, scumbag. Police two coppers come to his shop and say, oh, you can't have that sign up there because that's offensive. That will offend people. And they seem to think that this was a legal issue, that somehow or other he was breaking the law. Well, to his full credit, not only did he point this out to the officers and said, look, if I can call shoplifters scumbags if I want to, they said, well, you've got to take that sign down. So he took it down and replaced it with one that was about 5 times bigger. But coppers thinking, do you remember a couple of years ago, Merseyside police put all these banners up on these mobile trucks, big banners, literally saying it is an offence to be offensive. The chief constable of Merseyside at the time was alerted to this and said, well, actually, top cop, it's not an offence to be offensive. He goes, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, blimey. So they had to bring all the vans in. The coppers thinking it's against the law to be offensive is a big problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a big problem, and that actually comes down to leadership. You know, the junior police officers are, you know, not necessarily, I don't mean this in any derogatory way, but they're not super educated, all of them. They haven't got law degrees, so you wouldn't expect them all to have law degrees. So this comes down to the training that they're getting and the direction from the top. And it isn't actually, or shouldn't be at all complicated for the higher echelons of the police to make it very clear to cops that actually, you know, the odd bit of colourful language or whatever directed at each other, it's not a matter for the law. The law has got very big things to be dealing with, not this type of trivia. Yeah. And I thought the shoplifting thing was quite unbelievably ridiculous and absurd, and I'm glad the guy doubled down. I would too. You know, it's just a fact. Shoplifters are scum, and if we're not calling them scum, then what are we saying? Are we saying that they're victims? I mean, Maybe that is what Keir Starmer thinks.
Yeah. He said he wouldn't call them scumbags, as I said yesterday. Here's what he would call them. Vulnerable victims of a society that has abandoned them. You know, an uncaring society that has abandoned them. No. They're scumbags. He's right, that shopkeeper. And I'll tell you what, Isabel, if they're going to start arresting people for being offensive, I'm in big trouble. I really am.
You and I are both straight down the slammer, aren't we?
Yeah, you're off to Holloway, I'm off to Wormwood Scrubs. Good to talk to you, as always, Isabel. Great stuff. Thank you very much. Isabel Oakeshott Talks International Editor. By the way, we've got a competition here on Talk, and this is what it is. We are giving you the chance to win £5,000 spending money plus tickets to watch American football when it returns to Wembley this October. The Los Angeles Rams take on the Jacksonville Jaguars in the autumn, and we are giving you the chance to win 6 seats in a private box with full hospitality plus £5,000. If you want to be in with a chance to win, here's how to enter.
18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word Wembley to 83338 and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission or enter for free by calling 0330 880 3338. All entries must be received by 25th August at 11 p.m. This is a TalkSport limited promotion run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. See TalkSport.com for terms and conditions.
Well, it's American football, so let's do this promo in an American accent. Oh, the ideas they come up with, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. Let's go to break. No, that's a good prize, though, isn't it? £5,000 and a box of 6, so give it a go. Let's go to break now. When we come back, we're going to talk about government waste. They've apparently spent almost £4 million a year on private cars, and we'll revisit the story that we did. Was it yesterday or was it the day before? The Foreign Office has lost like £1 million worth of laptops, phones and tickets for travel that they never took. £1 million in a year. And they took war on waste. Bit of a losing war, isn't it? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Be processed immediately.
Inflation's been creeping up now for a few months, and what's driving this, Mike, is it's pretty much food inflation is continuing to go up, so that's it, 4.9%, and this is not the direction that we want things to be going. And what we've seen, Mike, they were talking last week, Rachel Reeves, about the economy and comparing ourselves to some of the other nations, so let's do that with the inflation figures. France, 0.9%, Germany, 1.8%, so two of the big powerhouses of Europe, they're below that Bank of England target. So the government needs to look now, what are they doing wrong because inflation's so high?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about government waste. Well, just the other day, I think it was 2 days ago, we revealed that the Foreign Office, to be exact, has spaffed £926,000, so the best part of £1 million, on lost computers, phones and missed travel. In other words, travel journeys that they booked but didn't turn up for. £1 million in a year. By the way, they put out a statement to us. The Foreign Office operates around the world, including in war zones and fragile environments where the situation can rapidly change for the worse. What are they talking about? The losses figure includes assets looted and destroyed in combat zones. Yeah, there's loads of Foreign Office diplomats in war zones, you know, getting phones blown out of their hands. For example, it goes on, the outbreak of war in Sudan meant some supplies intended for development programs were destroyed or otherwise irretrievably lost in a fire at the contested airport and in fighting in North Darfur. If you're from the Foreign Office, what I would advise is don't give us this statement, just keep quiet. Anyway, they've lost £1 million worth of laptops and phones in Sudan, apparently, in the war. Yeah, right. But also, the government has spent almost £4 million in the past year on private cars. Another enormous waste of money, it sounds like. Let's speak to the spokesperson for the Taxpayers Alliance, Joanna Marchong. Hello, Joanna.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Well, tell us about this. I mean, this seems like an enormous amount of money to spend on private cars. What's been going on?
Right, so just a bit of background. The government have this car service that they will use. They will have a fleet of cars for ministers and the like. Obviously, it's a needed kind of procedure that they have where they have to have these cars. But I think the problem with it is that...
Not £4 million worth a year. They don't need that many.
Exactly. So it's not okay for them to be spending almost £4 million a year, or, well, the costs are about £330,000 a month, basically. They need to do that cost, and the vehicles that they have don't follow their climate agenda and their green agenda for electric vehicles that they're pushing onto people. And also, they don't need to be rolling around in Jaguars and new Range Rovers, for example. They could have something more cost-conscious.
Well, indeed, it's interesting. So there's a rundown, as you say. This works out, folks. Your fabulous government, you know, War on Waste, who only recently pledged to really crack down on overspending in Whitehall, is, as Joanna just pointed out, spending £330,000 a month. £330,000 a month on cars, on, you know, chauffeur-driven cars for government ministers, government officials. And there's a breakdown here, Joanna, of all the various departments. The Ministry of Justice seems to be the biggest spender. This is for, well, basically £500,000, £496,188.48 in a year. Nearly £500,000 on cars in a year for one department. I mean, this is a scandal, isn't it?
It is. I just can't wrap my head around how many trips that would even mean. I can't even visualize it, because when they're allowing themselves these luxuries of being chauffeured about London and about the UK, I mean, the average person, taxpayers, we're told we have to buy ridiculous electric vehicles, we're told we have to be saving money, bills are rising, everything's worse off. And yet they're kind of living the life of Riley just off living in luxury.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, I suppose, you know, government ministers, secretaries of state, I suppose they have to have cars. It's a big thing for politicians, isn't it? When they lose their jobs in the cabinet, they are crestfallen. They are absolutely destroyed, devastated by the fact they haven't got the status of a man in a cap driving them around in a Jaguar anymore. So it's a big, big deal. But I suppose you'll accept secretaries of state, maybe a few ministers. But who else is using these cars? I won't accept anyone else except government ministers and secretaries of state using cars at taxpayers' expense, and yet they clearly are.
Well, from what I understand, it's supposed to be only for government officials and ministers and people that require this kind of luxury travel or, you know, actually secure travel. But I think what is a different story is when we find out how many civil servants are expensing taxis from different locations, etc. But the cost will be for the cars themselves. Also, government bought 10 new cars, hybrid Jaguars recently, and it will also be for cost of drivers.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught what I was saying at the beginning before I introduced you, but we did this story a couple of days ago, that the Foreign Office in the past year has wasted, lost £1 million, and £926,000 to be precise, pounds on lost computers, phones, and also missed travel. So this would be tickets that were booked and paid for, but no one turned up to take the journey. But lost phones, lost computers, and tickets for travel never taken. £1 million, one department in a year. This is, of course, the department run by the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who in July threw a summer reception for the great and the good for the Foreign Office summer party. £50,000 for one night. And Pat McFadden, the other few months ago, said we are declaring war on Whitehall waste and Whitehall hospitality and Whitehall spending. They're doing nothing of the kind, are they?
No, not at all. I mean, this is a typical... The fact that you could rile off like so many stories just shows that they do not practice what they preach, and they also don't heed their own advice. I mean, when Tories were in government, they were calling out wasteful spending and they promised to be different. But again, broken promises where they are continuously behaving poorly, and they don't value taxpayers' money and realise what we have to do in order to pay our taxes and in order to live ourselves.
Yeah, it's our money. Ed Miliband the other day refused the parliamentary question about how much he and his department, members of his department, were spending on completely unnecessary domestic flights, which, by the way, for the Environment Department, they're extremely bad for the environment, aeroplane travel, and yet you don't have to take them in Britain. You can take trains, you can take cars, whatever. When he was asked, he refused to answer. He won't tell us how much he is spending on domestic flights and how much his department is spending on domestic flights. And I'll tell you why he won't tell us, because he's embarrassed. Because he knows it's a disgrace, he knows it's a scandal. So is the amount of money they're spending on cars, and so is the amount of money the Foreign Office is wasting on just about everything. It's a scandal, Joanna, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. Thank you so much. Joanna Marchong there, spokeswoman for the Taxpayers Alliance. Your calls next, 0344499 1000. Get on the phone, let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to go to Germany, as it were, metaphorically, and look at the most bizarre case I've ever seen of trans lunacy. A Nazi thug, a bloke, gets done for spreading hatred, and I don't like offences like that. It's stupid usually, but this guy deserves it. I mean, he's a Nazi, he really is. So he gets found guilty, gets sentenced to jail. It says, I identify as a woman, so he's going to spend his jail sentence in a female prison. If you're going to be a serious country, Germany, you can't allow this. This is lunacy. We'll talk about that next. But first, it's time for your calls. Let's go to Suffolk and talk to Roger. Hello, Roger.
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Yeah, just been listening to your programme as normal. Yeah, so it's always fantastic to hear what's going on.
Thanks.
Obviously, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, of course I can, yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. Obviously now the mainstream British are now going to be called right-wing,
far-right thugs.
Far-right. So this is mainstream Britain, yeah?
Yep.
So let's have a little think about something which happened 85 years ago when the mainstream British decided, well, look, it's a big call to arms here. We've got to defend ourselves. And along comes the Battle of Britain after the Battle of France.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there's a little place in Kent called Capel-le-Fern, which is a cliff top.
I know it well.
Where the asylum seekers are all landing. And obviously, on the cliff top is the Capel-le-Fern Battle of Britain Memorial. On this panel is 600 young RAF 19 and 20-year-old
who died in that incredible air battle, yes.
Yes, and obviously came from mainstream Britain. And obviously at the time they were fighting fascism, and obviously extreme right fascism.
Yeah.
So were the mainstream British, were they fascists and right wing then, or were they fighting against fascism and right wing?
Well, I think it's the latter, Roger. And in those days, this country had patriotic pride. It had a pride in itself, and more and more, the kind of liberal elite in the cities, dare I say it, the kind of people who are in the Labour Party, in the Labour government, seem to be ashamed of this country. It's really fascinating what's going on with these flags at the moment. What's it called? An outpouring of patriotism. Is it called raising the colours? Is that right? Anyway, apparently you cannot buy right now a flag, a Union Jack or a St George's Cross flag for love nor money, because they've all sold out. They're selling thousands and thousands and thousands of them, and this is the people saying to Britain-hating politicians like Keir Starmer, because I don't think he likes this country. He certainly doesn't like patriotism. He allies patriotism with far-right thuggery. It's nonsense, but people are fighting back, and they're saying we're not ashamed of our country, we're not ashamed of our flags, we're proud of Britain, and we're proud of the Union Jack, and we're proud of the St George's Cross. Fascinating syndrome. The people have had enough of being called far-right thugs just because they love their country.
And also, let's have a quiet thought for those 19 and 20-year-olds.
Yeah, damn right, man. Damn right.
Right,
I know Capel-le-Fern. I know that area because during my peripatetic youth, my family lived in that area. We lived near Dover for a while. I went to Dover Grammar for a bit, and I know all of that area. I know folks, and I know Capel-le-Fern, the cliff tops, that sort of 7 or 8 mile journey from Dover. So yes, and those were the most incredible scenes probably ever seen in this country. Local people lining up along the cliffs to watch these dogfights between Spitfires and Stukas, these incredible air battles that we won, so yes, absolutely, remember them, remember those young men, teenagers, as you say, who fought and laid down their lives for their country, because what on earth were they fighting for if we're going to let this country go to the dogs like it is right now? To honour their memory, we've got to reclaim our country and start being proud of it. Roger, great call. Thank you very much. Very good point. Roger in Suffolk. By the way, I got a good text here from Richard. talking about Axel Rudikabana, who's had his full prison privileges restored after chucking boiling water all over a prison officer. Isn't that special? Richard says, it makes me want to vomit that scumbag Axel Rudikabana gets an allowance in prison. Those poor sweet girls he murdered won't ever get pocket money, yet he does. Yeah, I'd bang him up in a jail cell and say, hey, do you know about solitary confinement? Well, you're about to find out about it for about the next 10 years, you little monster. I was going to say something rather bad there, but you know what we'd like to call him, don't you? Right, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Marcus in Colchester. Hi, Marcus. You want to talk about Lucy Connelly, yeah?
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, I just wanted to address that. Anybody who claims that two-tier justice isn't a thing is an arrant, ocean-going, 24-carat gold liar. And I don't need to tell you who I'm thinking of, you know.
Yeah. Of course it is. Yeah, I mean, the Prime Minister denies this two-tier justice, as you're implying, alluding to. Just look at Lucy Connelly. You know, I'm a bit worried about using such sexist terms, but she's a housewife, she's a mum from Northampton, 200 miles from where the riots were going on. She lost her temper, she posted something ill-advised on Twitter, and she got 2 years and 7 months for writing hurty words on social media. She wasn't even there. She got a bigger sentence, a longer sentence for people who threw bricks and tried to set fire to hotels, threw bricks at coppers. Unbelievable. And then you take Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, last Friday, found not guilty of encouraging others to commit offences when he stood there amid an angry anti-racism crowd shouting, these far-right scums, we should slit their throats, cut their throats now. Calling for them, he literally got away with calling for murder. Lucy Connelly, meanwhile, has just been released after 10 months of a very long sentence. Two-tier justice right there, Marcus.
You've highlighted an absolute litany of cases where extenuating circumstances have been applied to the ruling. And, you know, anything from I don't like the sun, it's too hot, to having to eat defective chicken nuggets. You know, and they've been excused the most egregious crimes. Lucy Connelly had none of her extenuating, and they were really genuinely traumatic, you know, losing that child.
She lost her own child. She lost her temper in empathising with those three poor mothers who lost their children. She'd lost her child, and Lucy lost her temper, and she put something on Twitter that she herself regretted. She pulled it down fairly swiftly, but got 2 years and 7 months. A family destroyed by disgraceful, grotesquely disproportionate sentence that she should never have got. As I keep saying, Marcus, of the 385 people who went to jail after last summer's riots, 12 of them were put behind bars for what they wrote on social media. Across the pond in America, they looked upon this and they're going, Christ, in Britain, they're putting people in jail for what they write on social media. They're shocked. Their jaws dropped. Keir Starmer just think, oh, it's perfectly normal. We're very proud of our record for freedom of speech. You're going to send people to jail for what they write on social media, Starmer. We don't have freedom of speech. Right, Marcus?
Yeah, her sentence was cruel and brutal, and I believe it was politically...
Of course, she was a political prisoner. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Make no bones about that. Marcus, got to move on, but always good to talk to you. Great call as always. Thank you. Marcus in Colchester. When we come back, we are going to talk about this Nazi thug who got... done for racial hatred. He's a Nazi in Germany, not a good thing, and was sentenced to prison, and they said, well, I identify as a woman. That's all right, you can go to a female jail. Come on. If you're going to be a serious country, Germany, you can't sanction this. And by the way, some of the BBC, even the Daily Mail, start going, she said she identifies as a woman. She's going to serve her sentence in a female jail. She's not a she. She's not a her. She's a bloke. She's he. He's a bloke. Unbelievable. We've got to stop pandering to this nonsense. We'll talk about that next, so stick around.
This is a kind of retribution through the back door, rather like devolution was, to try and break Britain up into regions, or break England up into regions, if you like, and effectively promote the Scottish flag, promote the Welsh flag, and denigrate the St George's Cross, which is why I'm so keen that we do start to fly the St George's Cross. I'm going to buy a flagpole and start flying one from the end of my drive. I think it's time.
Good man.
Inflation.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about a German neo-Nazi. Well, he calls himself Maler Svenja Leibig, but his real name is Sven Leibig. He's a bloke. He was found guilty of several offences, including slander and incitement to hatred. He's a real neo-Nazi activist. The German courts rejected his final appeal earlier this year, so he was sentenced to jail. At the point he was going to jail, he said, well, you see, the thing is, I identify as a woman. And they go, oh, that's okay, then you can serve your sentence in a female jail. That is ridiculous. And by the way, all journalists, can you stop calling this bloke he, she and her? Even the males, like she said she's a woman, she identified as a woman, her sentence, she'll serve her sentence. No, he, not he and him, not she and her. He's a bloke and shouldn't be going to a female jail. What about the poor women in that prison? With that guy amongst them. Let's talk to political theorist and professor at Webster University in Vienna, Ralph Scholhammer. Hello, Ralph.
Hey, Kevin. Great to be on with you. How are you doing?
I'm good. If Germany wants to be a serious country, and I think it does, it should not be indulging neo-Nazis like this, or any prisoner who at the point of his conviction says, I identify as a woman. And then they go, OK, you can serve your sentence in a female jail. Old Friedrich Merz last week over there, grandstanding at the White House, taking part in talks, peace talks that could affect the very future of the entire world. I think he should get back to his own country and sort it out. Anybody who presides over this kind of lunacy should not be at important talks affecting the rest of the future of the world, don't you think?
Well, listen, Kevin, I think that transgender neo-Nazis roaming through women's prisons is the logical endpoint of the decline of German culture. I don't think they are a serious nation anymore. But to be quite honest, and your viewers know that I talk about this all the time, I have a hard time finding any serious nation in the West. I mean, this is a horrifying and somewhat entertaining anecdote from Germany, but we have similar stories from the United States, we have similar stories from the UK. This is, it's for now at least, until there is a revolution followed by a renaissance, this is the end point of what we happen to know as Western civilization. And I'm quite serious about this because the governments and the NGOs and the activists, they all indulge us to participate in a lie, right? As you correctly point out, we are supposed to go along with this, even though we objectively know it's not true.
Yeah, very just sort of, the BBC, I'm not surprised, referred to this bloke, this guy, man as her and she. Disappointed to see that the Daily Mail did the same. It's a guy, it's a bloke. And I said exactly what you said, Ralph, when I saw this story this morning. I said, this is symbolic. This is symbolic of the decline of European culture. If we're going to indulge dangerous men like this and say, OK, you can be among women in a women's jail, we have corporately lost our minds in this continent, haven't we?
Yeah, and we have now all over the West for an entire month, we had the Pride Progress flag waved from every building. So if we make this the official state religion, you cannot expect that neo-Nazis are not also going to adapt it. I mean, in a sense, you can say this is the most progressive of all the neo-Nazis. And this is the journey in which we're on. I mean, we live now in countries, the same in Germany, the same in the UK, where you put up the Pride Progress flag, but you are forced by your local council to take down the German flag or the St. George's flag or the Union Jack. We made a choice, and I have to say this is also partially the fault of the voters, including myself, and I'm terrified to say, maybe also you, Kevin, we allowed this to go on for much too long, and we continue to put our hopes in politicians like Friedrich Merz or Boris Johnson or you name it, and they're one disappointment after the other. I'm afraid that we are very close to the point where the people have had enough, and I think what's going to follow is probably not going to be pretty.
Why can't people like Friedrich Merz, and for that matter Keir Starmer, but Friedrich Merz in particular, in Scotland until recently, Nicola Sturgeon, why can't they see that it's fundamentally wrong to threaten the safety of women in prison by foisting on them men? We in this country were busy sending rapists to convicted male rapists to female jails until the madness finally stopped. Well, why can't Friedrich Merz see that he should not sanction this? He should stop this. If he wants to be a serious nation, this is lunacy.
I agree with you, and I don't mean to shift the topic, but and again, this is true for Germany and the UK. The ruling elite or the establishment or the governments, whatever you want to call them, have stood by while thousands and thousands of women have been raped as a consequence of failed migration policies. So why should they care about women in women's prisons? I mean, the biggest losers of recent political developments in most Western nations are women. However, I have to add this as well. Those who are the strongest supporters of these failed policies are very often, university-educated women under the age of 30 in urban areas. So we live in very interesting, but also very confusing times, to be honest.
We certainly do. Listen, Ralph, I don't know what to say, but I hope something will be done about all this. But it's a long shot. We are trapped in a swirling mass of madness, of woke madness. But really good to talk to you. Let's talk again soon. Ralph Schollhammer there, political theorist and professor at Webster University in Vienna. In my view, speaking a lot of sense, and we've still got a little while, maybe you want to give us a call. That's just mad. Mad. You know, and not fair, not safe to the women in that jail. This neo-Nazi lunatic, a bloke, journalists everywhere. Please don't call this bloke she and her. It's him and he. Don't indulge him. God's sake. That's the Daily Mail did that as well. Pull yourself together. Pull your socks up. Raise your game. What's the matter with you? You expect it with the BBC, but not the Mail. Let's talk let's go back to the phones to talk to Mark in Lincolnshire about flags. Hello, Mark.
Hi there, Kev, mate.
All right.
All right. Yeah, the whole raising the colours thing, mate. I think it's a lot more than just patriotism. I think it's definitely got like a political angle to it. It really seems to be about people just wanting the country back, really. They've had enough of decade after decade of being told how evil the St. George's Cross is, how evil they are as people, how the only thing that we should worship the altar at is diversity and inclusion and all this nonsense.
Mark, I'm not sure you got the memo, but diversity is our strength.
Oh yeah, absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
I mean, they told us that we were living in a melting pot. The only problem is, Kev, that melting pot turned out to be more of a sewerage tank at the end of the day because it just doesn't work. all that happens is you end up with these, silos of different cultures and people that aren't integrating with each other, that aren't socialising with each other, and that in itself creates a load of the problems that we have, and it's like, well, and then, like I say, and then on top of that, you'll have the usual stuff, people coming out and slagging you off and having a pop because you happen to dare. 'Cause you might notice that the most popular flag that's being raised is the St George's flag.
Yeah, which is an English thing, and again, I think the English should reclaim that flag from people who say, oh, it's a symbol of racism. No, it's not. It's a symbol of English patriotism. And, of course, we should reclaim the Union Jack, which, again, idiots from the left ally to some kind of right-wing political inclination. Absolute nonsense, absolute nonsense. You're right, Mark. Something is going on. You can't buy a flag for love nor money at the moment, apparently. The people are speaking and they are letting everybody know exactly where we stand. Maybe, just maybe, there's a glimmer of hope in this country. I mean, it's not going to come from the government, it will come from the people. Mark, great call, as always. Thanks for ringing. Mark in Lincolnshire there. Ian Collins is in the studio.
Yeah, but don't paint a roundabout, though, because that, of course, becomes...
there's this joke going around, if you want to get your potholes
yes, that's right,
paint them with a George Cross and the council will be there in seconds.
Seconds.
I think the leader of the Tower Hamlets Council, where they've got lots of Union Jacks and St George's flags have been put up. The way he said it, right, he's a convicted felon, by the way.
Correct.
He said it like this, sort of angry. We're going to get these flags down as soon as we can.
That's right,
as if they're some sort of obscene horror.
Yes, it's not like we were kind of hanging zombies from lampposts.
Yeah, that's the way he saw it. But it's interesting, though. Mike Graham said he had a call this morning from someone who said he went out to try and get a Union Jack. Apparently you can't get one for love nor money. They're selling out all over the country.
It's unbelievable.
Keep going, folks. Keep hanging the flag.
Yeah.
Pride in our flags. Great stuff.
But don't break the planning permission laws, apparently.
Yeah, break the planning permission laws.
No, sorry, health and safety, isn't it?
Yeah, well, don't forget, it's the government that break the planning permission laws when it comes to migrant hotels.
Well, indeed. Yeah, I mean, they weigh about £1, one of those flags. I don't think anyone's going to die because one fell on your head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they said they're in danger.
Danger.
I mean, the dichotomy here is in Birmingham and Tower Hamlets and other boroughs, the flags, the Union Jack and the St George's flag hung on lampposts are a risk to life. They're dangerous. However, the many Palestinian flags that adorn those
different
boroughs,
kind of flag,
they're not dangerous at all.
No, they're not. Apparently, somebody also said to me the other day when we were talking about this that if one fell off and a cyclist was going past and it landed on them, they could crash their bike. And I said, and?
It's unbelievable. What's you got coming up, mate?
We're talking about Lucy Connelly, now released from prison, a horrendous 31 months sentence that she was given. Obviously, she served about 40